pleasure to have you with us as we get ready on RaceKraft SimSpeed TV for RaceKraft V8 Vets Championship. Stumbling over his words, that's me, David Haynes, joined by Brock Cadday and Daniel Yeaman as we look forward to a big one for V8 Vets, 300 kilometres here at the Bend.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to be in the box here with David and Daniel, ready for a race around one of Australia's own tracks in the Shell V-Power Motorsport Park, or the Bend. Located in South Australia, just near Talem's Bend and owned by the Shahins. It's a fairly recent build in terms of Australia's history of tracks, but a very unique one that the Shahins have put a lot of effort into making this mishmash of track configurations and layouts that all different types of motorsport can use, and tonight we'll focus on the supercars.
Yeah, so one of the most used layouts and certainly one of the best for this type of racing, called International. Shorter than GT, longer than the shorter configuration. You've got an incredibly long front straight here at the Bend. Turns 1, 2 and 3, a sequence of corners that all lash together. Turn 6 constantly producing overtaking opportunities there, and then it becomes a little bit follow the leader, but make sure you stay on your line through 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. Since some overtaking opportunities happen around turn 14 and turn 17. Then you've got the pit entrance on the outside of turn 18, where everyone will have to go at least twice during today's race.
Yeah, very interesting track layout here, and as you mentioned, David, some really good overtaking opportunities, but around the middle of the circuit there, it is follow your leader. But if you do come off that line, these corners, you'll see it when we go racing, they're very cambered and they're on a bit of a hill, so if you go out of your line, you can really risk losing some time there, and overtakes can be done there if you're brave enough to get through and someone makes a mistake in front of you. So I think we're up for an exciting 300 kilometres ahead, even if it is probably going to be a bit of a grueling one for the guys in the car tonight.
So it's getting towards crunch time in the championship now, with 2 of 2 drop rounds provisionally counted. Jordan Ross still leads. Wayne Walker jumps up into second, ahead of Sean McNamara and Scott Gamble. Michael Stewart completing the top 5 with Troy Stonestreet, Paul Young, Mark Boynton, Mike Taliancic and Dean Logsdale inside of the top 10. I think the 2 drop rounds have helped Taliancic, who's missed a race or 2, jump back up into the top 10. And then Justin McLean's also one of the biggest movers, currently dropping 0 points. So it's his best of his best that count, and that jumps him up 16 positions.
And our biggest shaker there, Jeff Thomas, who's in 20th, didn't start round 7, and his drop score is 118 points as well. So at these drop rounds, they always shake up the order a bit. But what we always say about V8 Vets racing is it's nice and close. And look at that, Wayne Walker, who had a great race out last week. Only 39 points behind Jordan Ross at the moment. Nice and tight with McNamara and Gamble there too. So some of our key players, with a few rounds to go, it's all still to play for.
1 point between Troy Stonestreet and Paul Young, if you don't mind, as well. So tonight, 300 kilometres at the Bend around this circuit. It's just under 5 kilometres on the international layout. That gives us 61 laps, and for those all-important points, to be a classified finisher, you've got to complete 75% of race distance, which tonight will be 46 laps. Starting fuel for this long race is up at 80 litres, and it's an uncapped 133 litre fuel tank, giving us plenty of wide strategy windows. But this is a high fuel consumption track. It is an over 300 kilometre race, and with 2 compulsory pit stops and the CPS window opening at lap 2, I think that the critical lap for the second stop was somewhere between lap 27 and 29, round about the halfway point.
It presents some really interesting options, as we see here, the possible pit stop strategy. So that uncapped 133 litre fuel tank really unlocks this race a little bit. So we do still start with that 80 litres, as you mentioned, David, but what this means is that you can stop as early as lap 2 when the window opens, drive into the race to lap 28, to that critical lap number, and then you can make it home from there. Long stint, I might add, particularly on your tyres and your driver as well without a break there, but you can do it. Alternatively, you can split the race a little bit more evenly and go for that stop 1, lap 20, top up right to the top, Then you can do middle strategies, lap 40, kind of split the strategy in half, or you just go run the thing to the end at lap 53 and get on some fresh boots for the run to the end. So we always see a bit of a mishmash of strategy here as guys try to find their way through the pack with a bit of strategy. I think tonight will be no different.
Yeah, it's going to be a very significant total fuel requirement. Going to need to add more than 160 in the lane, so it'll be quite a bit of time stopped in the lane across the two stops. However you look to, move the fuel drop around, whatever laps you go to pit. I quite like the look of that light blue line, to be honest. 20 laps, 21 to get to the end. This is unique among all of the Australian race tracks on iRacing at the moment, Brock, because it's got the 40km/h pit lane speed.
Exactly it. So in all the Australian tracks, as is in real life as in the sim, it's a 40km/h pit speed limit. Now, the pit entry is actually just off the exit of the final turn there. As they go to launch down the front straight, you duck off to the left and you go into the pits. So getting the car off and into that relatively short pit entry, I might add, and down to 40km/h is going to be critical to making sure that you don't grab a penalty. Not to mention, if you've got guys coming in behind you, these cars have brakes that are very easy to lock, and you could end up with some nose-to-tail action going in there. So definitely worth noting that. Not to mention, we talked about the long pit straight here. Well, that means the pit lane is extra long as well. So we've got not only the 133-litre top-up they've got to do, but also a relatively long pit lane transit time. So it's not just all about the race on the racing surface tonight. There's a lot to play out in the pit lane too.
Yep. Absolutely. All of that factoring in pit transit delta over 30 seconds. I think the tyre change, not going to be too much of a problem around the stops with how much fuel they're going to need to take. That'll cover tyre changes pretty easily. So that's the strategy set up for 300 kilometers of racing here at the Bend. So let's look at the Zoom wall. Who's joining us tonight? Always an interesting insight into people's setups, hairstyles, exactly how much the racing's making them sweat, whatever it may be. The Zoom wall is always an interesting look into all of that. And we got the Sandman in the top left. You've got Scott Gamble just getting his gloves ready. Luke Allman, Dean Logsdale. The Dino Dyno is just under 100 at the moment, but expect that to ramp up. And Jonathan Gallen, Jeff Thomas just resting his arm. David Kirby getting his gloves on, I think, there as well. Sean McNamara, hand on forehead. And things are very dark for Matty Mascord. Got Travis Hunt, Greg Sharp, and Michael Stewart as well.
Always love seeing the Zoom wall, and it brings us some of our favourite moments of the night, I reckon, seeing these V8 Vets races manhandling these cars from start to finish. And we sometimes get some funny faces or interactions as well. And I know one of our personal favourites is going to the Dino Dyno and seeing when Dean's involved in a big battle, just seeing how that heart rate's going. So I'm looking forward to checking in throughout this race.
Looks like Mascord's putting the headset on and going to give us the driver's eye view again. So a different view from different folks, many different angles, but they're all sort of counting down the warm-up and then the grid, because they are all locked in, ready to go. And recapping, driver of the day from a week ago at Jerez was John Latham.
Yeah, Latham did a great job last week, and excuse me, I can't remember his finishing position, but I know he had some serious trials and tribulations when it came to the race. Started 22nd, finished 11th. There we go. Thank you very much, Daniel. Had, I believe, a spin on the entry to pit lane as well, and still recovered to a great result. So that's how he earned the Chubby Buns driver of the day last week in Jerez.
Yep, fantastic. We'll see who can be Chubby Bunsberger's driver of the day at the end of tonight here in 300 kilometers from the Bend. This is the grid, and Scott Gamble has the pole position. Ken Latta is going to start from second place. Behind them, Paul Young in third, and Jordan Ross will start from fourth. Row number 3 has got Wayne Walker and Sean McNamara, and they were only 0.03 of a second apart in qualifying. Dean Logsdale in 7th, Michael Stewart in 8th. Then we've got Darren Lobb with the more representative qualifying position of 9th, and Matt Muggleton will start out at 10th, Brock.
Excellent. So that's your top 10. We've got Troy Stonestreet out of 11th with Christopher Burridge out of 12th. Lining up 13th, Andrew Rushworth with Travis Hunt alongside him in 14th. Really tight times here through the pack as well. Mark Poynton, 15th, with Scott Mackay in 16th alongside him. And 17th, Chad Lewis, and coming out at 18th, Michael Whiting. And rounding out our top 20 for this race, we've got Greg Sharp, 19th, and Dean Flavel, 20th, two of our Zoom wallers.
Yeah, exciting. Behind them, Stacey Boyd and Ray Smith. Last driver within 1 second of poles. John Gallen, who'll start 23rd. David Kirby will start 24th, sharing that row with him. Behind that, Damien Cairns in 25th. Steve Kennedy in 26th. Gary Buckland in 27th. Also on the Zoom wall, Luke Allman in 28th on the grid. Also on the Zoom wall, here's an all Zoom wall row. Matty Mascord in 29th and Stephen Clark in 30th.
All right, Jeff Thomas in 31st and Stephen Grumley in 32nd. John Latham, who we were just talking about as Chubby Bun's driver of the day, in 33rd, and Christian Smart 34th. Ricky Hyde in 35th and Wayne Sanderson out of 36th. Darren Goosey 37th and Matt Brunt 38th. And rounding out our 39 car grid here, Scott McCune off the last row in 39th.
One or two drivers that didn't have a qualifying time but should be split one drivers. So certainly Brad Doble, I would have thought so. Perhaps not. Just looking at the grid, and it has the safety car at the head of it, which means we're going to get a formation lap and a rolling start.
That's an interesting one. That'll shake up the start here a little bit for this enduro event. Obviously, we're used to these guys doing the standing start week in and week out, but hey, we're all for something a little bit different, and I'm sure this will shake things up coming to the line to start this one.
Says you, I'm straight down the middle. So you can see that they all line up very differently for a rolling start than for a standing start here at the bend. So that's something to note, I suppose.
That is interesting, isn't it? Because you've got, like, if you look there, you've got Jordan Ross, who at the moment is white lining it on the outside of the circuit. So this will be interesting how they line up here, because we'll obviously want the right line will want to go to the right and defend the inside. We've got quite a wide track here at the bend too, so there's a good chance we see some 3 or 4 wide action as well. I'm honestly a little bit nervous, but quite excited to see how this goes.
Well, change up the strategy graph. Go knock, 1.5 litres off the starting fuel.
this will be a good opportunity to get a feel for the track out there with them cruising around at what'll be a Sunday drive pace before we hit the racing action in just a few minutes' time, and just see them cruise around. We'll get a lay of the land, look at some of the features of the track and the little things that make it unique as one of our more premier tracks in Australia. This will be. I don't think I've seen a supercar's rolling starters. Now they're all rolling away, nice and steady. No one's stalled. Also good to see.
Well, hang on. We quickly got to check. Is that Porsche pace car? Is that Sam Shahin's Mobil 1 Super Cup car? What are they doing here at the bend?
For an occasion as special as this, I reckon it would have to be. Shahin would want to, for the V8 Vets being at the bend, you'd pull out all the stops, I reckon.
Weird steering technique, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, the ratio's a bit different to what I'm used to, but he's getting around the corners.
Yeah, amazing. It's the new psychically driven Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car. And so, something I didn't think I was going to need to look up, which is that the pace car speed is 90 kilometers an hour here. The pit speed is 40. The pace car picks up the speed and then drops it back a little bit when it approaches hairpin turns. So the average speed of a pace lap will be just underneath the 90 kilometers an hour, but we're not going to dilly-dally too badly. There are some other circuits where the pace car speed is ludicrously too slow and really should be increased. Here at the bend, a new track, not one of them. So around we go.
It is interesting with the you speak of the new track to the iRacing service that I had thought they were moving towards those half-lap pace laps these days, but here we can see they're doing a full lap of this international circuit. So just an oddity that there's some inconsistencies there. But again, we're getting a look at this circuit, and at least 90k an hour, as you said, gives them a chance to get a little bit of heat into the tyres. I mean, not lots, but a little bit, just to give them some more grip when they get around to race start.
What's Yasser Shahin's favourite Radiohead album?
What is it? You're going to have to tell me.
You'd think it's the Benz, but it's actually In Rainbows.
Well, I would have guessed the Benz, so you've got me there, David. And also, I've got to ask you, a close personal friend of Yasser Shahin? Or just like researching him?
I just like making things up about public figures and spouting them as facts.
Oh, well, in that case, that checks out.
But if he wants to go to dinner and it's his shout, I'd consider.
And then you can find out what his actual favourite Radiohead album is.
Absolutely. That would be the third question I'd ask.
What are the first two? If you can say it.
Be like, oh, what looks good on this menu? Do you come here often? That sort of stuff.
Two very good first questions. I'll give you those.
This is one of the overtaking opportunities that's sort of a little slept on. And you've got fast, sweeping final corner where the pace car is going to pull away, and 61 laps and the 300 kilometres will begin now for RaceKraft V8 veterans as we come onto the front straight. Scott Gamble converting perfectly from that pole position, heading down towards turn one with Ken Ladder on his outside, fanning out 3 wide, 4 wide. Some interesting braking opportunities there as we get a tyre lockup or two, and already a couple of skittle cars. Dean Logsdale spinning to the inside. He's going to see the whole field stream past him through 1 and 2.
Yeah, everyone keeping it relatively clean there, despite the fact we had, obviously, that fanning out of the cars, 3-4 wide coming down to the turn one. Dean Logsdale, unfortunately, one of the victims. We've got someone else off there in the foreground. Troy Stonestreet, one of our top 10 championship drivers, has had a trip off into the weeds there. So Scott Gamble, great start out the front, as now we go back to this sweeping left.
Oh, they're bowling at turn 6.
They're locking up. Oh, we've got nose to tail. Everyone's getting involved in this.
Yeah, so there's 3 wide, tyre lockup from someone down the inside, scattered a couple of cars. Stacey Boyd's been hit, and then you can see just behind him, Jeff Thomas also getting up to speed after all of that. Troy Stonestreet positions lost, and Gary Buckland as well on this opening lap. And it's not gone well for Jordan Ross, the championship leader, qualified 4th, but he runs 8th right now. So getting past him has been Wayne Walker, Sean McNamara, Michael Stewart, and Darren Lobb. He's got Darren Lobb just in front of him, the championship leader in the blue Ford Mustang. Easy to spot, but not been easy to get away on this opening lap for him.
No, unfortunately not. This is not something we've usually seen from Jordan Ross. Typically, we see him at the front of the field and streaming away or catching those who are ahead of him, and this is uncharacteristic, albeit with some of the carnage we saw there, potentially just some avoidance tactics to avoid his race coming to an end, but he's certainly not letting Lobb or Stewart ahead of him get away with anything, as they're now coming around to complete lap 1 of this 61 lap enduro here at the Bend. Looks like everyone else has got it going. The field isn't too spread out either. Gamble certainly hasn't been able to run away with anything just yet. It's coming down to the turn 1. No moves being made. Everyone just settling in for the long run.
Yeah, so 1 lap completed. Been just a little bit messy at places in the field. Field, though, stretching out on the opening lap, particularly around that back half of the racetrack where there's a few sequential corners that you can't quite pass or really run side by side easily. Begins to stretch the field a little bit. Through turn 5, not completely flat out, but your exit from there leads you to a big braking zone here at turn 6. Our eyes at the moment on 6th place with Michael Stewart ahead of Darren Lobb. Jordan Ross just giving him a little bit of a hello. And Darren Lobb was trying to put some pressure on Michael Stewart. And then around the 20th here, David Kirby with Ray Smith. John Latham, another race, making many positional gains. He's up into 23rd. Remember, we saw him 33rd on the grid.
Yeah, Latham, he's a bit like me. My qualifying's never great, but his race pace is excellent. So he always manages to just be able to work his way through the pack, and already he's still looking racy up behind Kirby and Kennedy here, looking to take more positions. But these guys, they're racing really closely through these sections that we called follow the leader earlier, and keeping it nice and clean, which is exactly what you want to see. But here some overtaking opportunities will come out, as now we just look at these most positions gained, with John Latham at the top of plus 10 in just under 2 laps is an excellent effort. Now we look back to one Mr. Stephen Clark Sandman here in 25th, up 5 positions. Bit of a cork in the bottle here at the moment. He's got a few guys lined up behind him sniffing for an opportunity.
This is one of the places an opportunity can present, and he runs just a little bit wide. So Smart had a look down the inside, backed out of it, and then Clark's run a tiny bit deep. Might lose out another one here to Wayne Sanderson. Side by side through the final corner we go. It's going to cost both of them some time. Clark's got to try to hold on to it, but Luke Allman's got to run at him. So too does Dean Logsdale. And with a poor final corner running wide out into the beach, and a couple of them all look to swamp him over that little crest, then in a long braking zone into 1. Clark's going to try to come back. He'll have the left-hand side of the road into this turn 2. And then you just don't want people to dive down the inside of you into 3, and he's got that one covered off versus Logsdale and Grumley.
I tell you what, Clark looks like he's the most relaxed supercars driver, considering what he just went through in those last few corners there, David. Just not a bother in the world, handling it like a champ. And he managed to fight off that attack and keep his position there after losing a couple. So he'll carry on there. Now we're looking at Logsdale and Grumley, who they were side by side just before SimSpeed, just after we were focusing on Sandman there. But now it looks like that's all sorted itself out. Little bit of distance here as we come into this sort of 7, 8, 9, 10 complex, these sweeping right-hand turns that you've got to really hold the steering angle on and manage your throttle through with these big cars, as now we've got Mark Poynton being given a drive-through penalty for a lap 1 incident.
I believe that might have been contact with Dean Logsdale on the way into turn 1. So yeah, Mark Poynton currently running 11th with the drive-through. We pointed out that's an incredibly costly penalty here at the Bend. Long pit lane at 40 k's an hour versus an incredibly fast front straight. So that will be a significant penalty to Mark Poynton, who currently runs 11th. About to have 3 laps completed of the 61 lap enduro. Gamble is just stretching away a tiny bit at the lead. This is a look at that lap 1, and Poynton all the way down the inside, 4 wide, just gonna get a bit of contact to the rear of Logsdale.
Yeah, look, when these supercars are unloaded like that, they're at the point of the apex just about, and he's just touched in the smallest amount and it spins them round. That's all it takes. And unfortunately for Poynton, that one there, that's a pretty shut and close case. So he did try his best to not get into him, but it was just that little bit there. As now Stephen Grumley has also been black flagged while we're looking at this replay, and I think we're just seeing why that is.
It's a little different. So there's Jordan Ross losing position. Stone Street actually loses the rear, and then as he slides across, he gets a second hit that just sort of finishes him off. This is Stephen Grumley over the hill and the crest at 5. We're heading towards turn 6. He looks down the inside, and yeah, I can see that. Gets into a closing gap, locks up, makes contact with 1 or 2 cars in and amongst all of that. And just to the end of that, we caught how Jordan Ross was losing positions on the opening lap. I think he got wrong-footed around turn 3 at that time.
So
very interesting. He's still 8th, by the way, as they run live at the moment, so he hasn't been able to get any of those spots back yet. This will be a long race. There will be a lot of opportunity to save a little bit of fuel if that's what he wants to do and get towards that first stop. I was liking the lap 20 first stop. That actually feels a long way away still.
I agree there, David. I think with these supercars, you can save tyres, but they do chew them up. So being able to split your race into even thirds is a really good way to do it, to manage your pace and make sure that you're not overusing or underusing your tyres throughout the course of this 61 lap race. But that one thing that we didn't shout out too much is the fact that the laps around here aren't short. You know, that we're talking, the guys out there at the moment are doing 1 minute 53s, 1 minute 54, so it's nearly a 2-minute lap around here. So that's why it feels like, although we've been watching for 10, 12 minutes now and nearly 5 laps, that really isn't that long in the scheme of this 300-kilometre race. So these guys have a long way to go. And you might be right, Jordan Ross might just be settling into that strategy of let's take it easy, get to this first pit stop, and then we can go from there.
Well, this is Ken Latta and Paul Young going side by side for second place. Ken Latta with his nose in front for the moment. We said this isn't a side-by-side part of the racetrack, and I think that'll almost get proven right here. Wayne Walker sitting in behind in 4th position, and Scott Gamble's lead just grows and grows with the battle for second place. Now a battle for 3rd place going on. Sean McNamara closes in on the fight that Ken Latta seems to have survived the storm. Is Wayne Walker long right-hander, just going to lean a little bit, but Paul Young won't give up into a slow left-hander. I think Paul Young's where you want to be. Now Sean McNamara is going to lean on Walker.
This is excellent racing here, you know, using all the track, getting into each other a little bit, but no harm, no foul here. They're all doing it to each other. This is what we'd love to see. And these are some of the best names in V8 Vets at the moment that are going at it. Some of our championship contenders still side by side there as Latta's locked up in the foreground there. So now this is all on here. Young's right on the back of Latta. Walker's got McNamara behind him. We have a honest battle here for second place. Latta was out of there, and that mistake has brought it all back in.
Yeah, also a really good move from Walker right there. So on the front straight, getting into the slipstream, getting up to speed, past 260 k's an hour, 270 over the crest there. Young's looking for second once again on the inside of 1. He turns in late, leaves Ken Latta out to dry. This track goes back to the left in 2, and now Young's got the inside of 3 covered off. But it's suddenly an unbroken group from 6th through to 9th, and Scott Gamble he's in a different postcode. I think he's over in Mildura.
Wouldn't surprise me. I've heard the weather's good there this time of year as well. But Michael Stewart as well behind McNamara, by the looks of it, is just starting to close that gap too. So this battling here is beginning to bring the back of the pack into this battle for second. So early on in this race, but they're playing for young and old as now we go through the sweeping section, line astern, where we saw them side by side last lap. They're going to behave at the moment. No one's making any mistakes, as Young has managed to clear just a bit of a gap up there on Latta, but Walker's looking racy. He's looking like he wants to make a move on Latta, go for that podium early.
I reckon while iRacing was scanning all of this South Australian power distribution equipment, they could have just found a Stobie pole to scan in. That would have been exciting. Stewart ran a tiny bit wide. Darren Lobb's gotten past him and up into 6th. I saw that Ray Smith had a slowdown penalty. I don't know what from, cost him a couple of spots. So with a lot of racing ahead of us, still in the first stint of the race, tempers are flaring a little bit, and there's a bit going on for sure. So this will be Incredible amount of RaceKraft V8 Vets action if it stays going like this. Oh, and I think Stewart's starting to come under more pressure. Here's Jordan Ross down the inside. So Stewart dropping from 6th to 7th, now to 8th, as Lobb and Ross get by.
Yeah, starting to see a bit of that pace come in now. The cars have warmed up and we're, nearing halfway through this first stint at the moment. So Ross starting just to march back forward through the pack to where he qualified. Michael Stewart now under threat from Matt Muggleton coming down to the turn one as they make contact in the braking zone. They're not going to... Oh, little lock up there for Stewart. Muggleton will get the job done here, but that could have been all sorts of nasty there. Muggleton through and Stewart continuing an unfortunate drop through the order in this last lap or two.
Makes for a really interesting group now, and a bit further back on the racetrack, John Latham continuing to pick off more spots. Battling with Steve Kennedy for the moment. That one's not signed and sealed yet. Latham, you see, 15 positions gained across this race, and with some pace for him.
That's for sure. If we keep up this sort of maths, 15 positions in 7 laps, he could be about 3 laps ahead of the field by the end of this one. That's an excellent effort by John there, and showcasing that race pace that he's got and ability to stay out of trouble. As now it looks like he's gotten that move done on Kennedy. Kennedy's backed off of it a little bit, and he's got that pace under control there. Now looking back at Christian Smart, who's also up 12. So we do have some big movers and shakers in this one. And Smart's not looking like he's done yet. He's eyeing off the car ahead of him. As now we go on board, he just looking driver's eye vision of Christian Smart as he winds his way, and the zoom camera there, winds his way through this sort of middle of the circuit. Now we're going to go up the hill. He's looking, he's searching, nothing going there, but that's okay. He looks like he's got the pace.
Certainly just showing the nose in a couple of the places. 2 left-handers here with a view of the pit straight. So the fans in that area can view this as well as the cars going by on the front straight and the pit stops and everything that happens there. There's some interesting stuff scanned around the pit buildings here as well. They didn't have a whole lot else to scan. It's just grass, power distribution, and pit building around here for the most part. Final corner, Christian Smart just a couple of car lengths back, getting right to that sausage curb at the apex and straightening the exit. Peak speeds are above 270 k's an hour, so watch those gears. Up in the 6th we go. How close to the limiter are we going to get? 265, 270, just before braking into turn 1 and navigating it just perfect.
Yeah, Christian's looking pretty locked in there. Smooth, calm, collected. Looks like the car's balanced really nicely for him. So now that we're on lap 8, looking like he's settling into a good rhythm, as now we're looking at another battle pack here through turn 2 into turn 3. This is the battle for 32nd between Boyd, Thomas and Goosey. Now remember, Boyd was caught up in some of that earlier melee coming into, I believe it was turn 6. So a little bit banged up, I think, but still out there battling and fighting at the moment to keep up some positions.
Fair bit of damage on the Jeff Thomas Mustang. Darren Goosey gets down the inside of turn 6 and moves ahead of him. There's also a bit of battling going on around 2nd, 3rd and 4th once again. Seems to be settling a little bit here. Latter coming under a tiny bit of pressure from Wayne Walker, who's finding his legs in this first stint. Paul Young getting away. Good on him, though.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is what we see Walker do. He's very good at racing and at putting his car in the right spot to get a pass done. As Ladder actually makes a mistake there coming through the second last turn and onto now the front straight. So Ladder is not looking comfortable, and Walker is looking to pounce at the moment as he just about is in pit entry trying to find a line on Ladder. He's going to look to the inside here down the front straight. They're coming down now to start the 9th lap. They're side by side. Walker's going to try and get this one done. Textbook move into turn 1. Ladder's not going to give it up easy for him, though. Ladder's going to stay alongside him. If Walker can keep it in, he'll keep the position. No! Ladder's managed to keep it. That was excellent racing by the two of them.
Now, wheel spin exiting turn 3 from Wayne Walker. Keeps himself ahead of Sean McNamara and Darren Lobb, and Jordan Ross sitting in 7th at the moment. Ken Ladder using just a tiny bit of door and a tiny bit of car placement to defend. He's half a car width wide of the apex in 6th. Walker gets to it just perfectly. So this is a real powder keg of a little battle, because at absolutely every single one of these drivers I rate incredibly well. Ken Latter's been so strong at points. Wayne Walker is sort of one of the standouts of this season. And then Sean McNamara, Darren Lobb, Jordan Ross in the tail of this group. You got to say, this is sort of like an all-stars boxing.
I couldn't agree more, David. This is really cool to watch because these are the guys, these are some of our championship protagonists. They're some of the guys that we always see week in and week out are there or thereabouts with their racing. And now we're getting to see them do one of the things they do best, and that's race supercars. So it is excellent to watch them. And one of the things I love is the harsh but fair racing rules. You know, they get up alongside, they get into each other a little bit, but we're not causing any incidents at the moment, knock on wood. It's just hard, fair racing with these guys who know these cars intimately through doing hundreds and hundreds of laps over the seasons with V8 Vets.
I think we're looking at all race winners here as well. Definitely for Ken Latter, Wayne Walker, Darren Lobb and Jordan Ross. Sean McNamara, I'd be pretty sure. So all of them, incredible amount of skill and experience right here. Walker, is he going to go for it again? He was about a car length further back coming off the final corner, but maybe that gives him a better run towards one. So he pulls out later. No overlap in the braking zone here. Ken Latter will try to hold on. Walker might be looking for the inside of turn 3, but he gets offline through 2. Gets himself just a little bit exposed. McNamara could get his nose underneath Wayne Walker here, exiting 3. 4 is the right-hander. 5 is not flat out here, so it's requiring a little bit of skill and precision. And then a big stop here at turn 6. Track's very wide on the way in, just to entice you to think about a move.
Yeah, absolutely. And Walker having mother of all oversteer there, but managing to keep it all in peace. I think he's driving with one eye out the front and one eye in his rear view at the moment, because if he makes a slight mistake or has a bit of contact with Ladder, that's going to shoot him straight back into McNamara. And right now, he doesn't want that. Walker wants to go forward, but Ladder is driving incredibly well here and defending really well to make sure that he can't get by. So you can see probably a bit of frustration coming out from Walker there with that bit of oversteer there. Gassing it up a little bit much. You can tell these guys are itchy to get past Ken Ladder, but Ladder's putting on a great defensive show and just doing all the right things to keep them behind in their little train they've got going on.
Just kicking up a little bit of the dirt, but for the most part staying on track. Ken Ladder versus Wayne Walker, Sean McNamara, etc. here. They're not closing in on Paul Young. But has Paul Young been closing in on Scott Gamble, the race leader? I think that gap's down to 2 seconds between Gamble and Young. I think it was as high as 3.9 seconds at one point. So Paul Young, his individual laps, some of the fastest of anyone. Yeah, it takes another 6/10. Near enough out of the race leader. There's no one on track quicker than Paul Young right now. Not Jordan Ross, not Darren Lobb, not Scott Gamble.
How's that? Paul's bringing some pace, and he, with those drop rounds, he is in the top 10 of the championship, I believe we saw earlier. So, well and truly belongs in this area, and apparently just has a real affinity for the Bend racetrack. Because in qualifying, he was third as well, and only about a 10th off of Scott Gamble in first. So, absolutely the pace is there. And now that he's been released from that battle pack we've watched a couple of times now, he's chasing down Gamble. But we know Scott. We've chatted to him many a time in the booth. Locked in, focused, calm movements. He looks like he's racing his own race there, and that Paul catching up behind isn't bothering him too much yet.
So looking at the power distribution, the massive power lines in this area, I've gone to a source of information that I can trust. What voltage do you reckon they are?
I know I'm going to get this wrong, so I'm just going to guess 1 million voltage, if that's a thing.
Yeah, a lot. According to this, they're 275,000 volts up there over the top of the racetrack. I wonder if that doesn't occasionally lead to some unshielded things in race cars getting a little bit weird. Paul Young, within 2 seconds of the race lead. This is the kind of information and coverage you only get from David Haynes on SimSpeed TV. Oh, second, third, and fourth come together. Sean McNamara puts his nose underneath Wayne Walker's wing and then shovels him towards Ken Latter. So at the penultimate corner, McNamara's got the braking a little bit wrong and just opened this up amongst this group here. But Paul Young again takes another 3.5 tenths out of Scott Gamble, the race leader. We haven't even gotten to the first round of pit stops. Things are spicy in the top 10. Here comes Jordan Ross with a look.
You said it earlier. It's a bit of a boiling pot here at the moment. I get the impression that it's all going to blow at some point, but they're doing very well at the moment to keep it clean and battle nicely. Keeping in mind that there's probably a little bit of strategy coming into this. You know, Ross is at the back of this train, and probably for him, it's not about making moves. It's about saving fuel and making sure he's not involved in anything if it happens. But again, look at this Walker. You can see we're on board with Jordan Rossi, and you can just see Walker's already closed that gap up to ladder, but he just can't seem to make it through, which is where we've got this sort of cork in the bottle at the moment of 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. 5 cars attached from pretty well nose to tail for the better part of the last sort of 9 or 10 laps and ongoing. Pit cycle will be interesting here when we get around to it. I reckon if all these guys come in at a similar time, we were just talking about earlier that pit entry and how tight it is and how quickly you've got to get down to 40k an hour. If more than 2 or 3 of these guys come on at once, that could be a real awkward entry.
Absolutely, it could be. We've seen that before. On board with Jordan Ross right now, sitting behind Darren Lobb, watching what's happening with this group, the All-Star Shootout. Tiny touch for the sausage curb. Here's where they came together a lap ago. Walker is very close to Latter. McNamara barrels in pretty deep. Sausage curb there as well, and Latter just doesn't seem to straighten the car and get the exit he'd like compared to Walker. Now out of the final corner, Latter gets it just a little bit better. Everyone goes over that hashing at the pit entry. And it's another lap completed, another lap where Paul Young gets a little bit closer to the race lead.
Yeah, Paul's just every single lap, he's just chiseling a 10th or 2 out of Scott's lead, but that's
McNamara.
Oh, McNamara down the inside, excuse me, on Walker, which is what he'd been teasing for laps at turn 3. Turn 4 now, Walker's going to keep that going, but now McNamara under threat from Lobb, I reckon, coming through here. Lobb looked like he had a bit of a run. McNamara's going to look to the inside again. Lobb had a look too, nothing going to come of it. Lobb's going to try to sneak up here, get side by side before they go through. Lobb's had a moment. Ross is going to go through here and just pick up another position. Silently, quietly, just working his way up the field, Jordan Ross, as they're side by side.
Jordan Ross had him just about cooked through there. So Jordan Ross up into 6th. A little bit of tyre smoke in the air. Drivers are now beginning to struggle somewhat. It's been a long run. I think fatigue begins to set in a little bit when you're racing like this. Tyre wear begins to set in. The sun's up there and the track temp's just been really, really gradually climbing. Nothing ridiculous, but 25 degrees now. Tell you what, I don't think that windmill on top of the Marshall post generates 275 kilovolts.
I think you'd be right. You'd probably be lucky to generate 1 or 2 watts out of that one. If you ask me, I think they'd be lucky to charge their phone. We're back to minus third here.
Yeah, and look who's just hanging on to these battles, though, because Michael Stewart, Matt Muggleton, Travis Hunt, they're really not that far away in the grand scheme of how much racing we've got to come. This looks like Michael Whiting, Dean Flavel, John Gallen just behind them, and indeed it would be. Gallen's made a couple of spots, but so have Whiting and Flavel. Whiting gets another one.
So Whiting up 4 now, up into 14th. Flavel up 5 in 15th there. So everyone, we've seen some guys just having some nice, really good quiet races and making good progress there. So as we see, Matty Mascord has come into the pits. I'm not sure, I'm fairly sure that'd probably be a first pit stop for the race. There we go, he's in his box now. Dean looking comfortable out here. Whiting did get that pass done on him last lap, but that hasn't seemed to upset his rhythm there, and he's just in a nice little flow here with Gallen in behind as well.
Yes, interesting. So you've had two drivers that have been through pit lane for drive-through penalties, that being Mark Poynton and Dean Logsdale. Andrew Rushworth was one of the first drivers to pit on lap 3 and took 29 seconds of service. Allman and Mascord have taken sort of 33 and 35. You can see Mascord on screen there. Troy Stonestreet's also made a pit stop, and so's Stephen Grumley. Paul Young within 1 second of the race lead. Wayne Walker still holding on to third. It still looks like an absolute hornet's nest. No, Walker's gone past Ken Latter. So Walker's ahead and up into third now.
So this is interesting here. So Walker has been released. So we'll see what he can do now in the back end of this first stint, but he's out of there. Look at the distance he's already got with Latter, but McNamara is right up behind. Here we go. Here is the pass. Walker still looking too far back here. It'll be on the exit. Ladder's a little bit wide. He's actually way wide there and off the track, and Walker's able to just, well, no pun intended, walk this one through. As now we hear Ladder comes on the radio as well, so we've got more action here. McNamara's looking down the inside, won't get it done. This is previous lap. Now,
so this has just happened now. So McNamara has a look down the inside of Ken Latter. There's just a tiny bit of contact. Both of them were in there pretty deep, and Latter ends up really, really wide, loses a whole chunk of spots and time because of this.
Yep, that is big for a guy who was doing such a good job defending. He's now come on behind, come back on in 10th by the looks of it there. So lost quite a few positions out of that, and now rocking around in 10th. So curious to see what happens from a race control point of view on that one.
Such a massive braking zone at turn 1 because of the speed they arrive at, and the apex speed is sub 100 k's an hour. They're sort of doing 80, 90. Ooh, now Lob and McNamara. McNamara's way, way, way off all the way. Darren Lobb's going to redress that one best he can, but my oh my, all sorts of drama. We were just waiting for that one to kick off, I think, amongst that group, weren't we?
Yeah, look, I think we felt there was going to be some action there, particularly as these tyres went down and the cars got a bit lighter, and now we've seen two instances of it. So we're going to go, we're going to have a look here at this replay here of Lob and Stewart. That's just Lob got in a little bit deep by the looks of it. Lob and McNamara, and McNamara's gone right off track, but Lob has waited to redress that one.
And so not that long ago, I was saying, you know, look who's in 9th off the back of this group. It's Michael Stewart, who's now up into the top 5, and as Sean McNamara has gone for pit lane, I'm pretty sure he's just been caught speeding on pit lane. It is a massive stop to get down to 40 k's an hour. Looks like McNamara hasn't done it in time, so he is going to lose out incredibly because of that one. Starting to see a couple of pit stops come along now on lap 16. It's not the face and words of a man who is going to be coming out of that pit stall in a hurry or particularly happy with it.
Absolutely not, and understandable frustration there after that incident with Darren Lobb, pushing him down a few, and then the speed limit being caught out there as well. Is that him off track again there before coming into the pits?
Dirty tyres, yeah.
So he was trying to handle the car. So keeping in mind, David, you just mentioned dirty tyres, but he's got them again here. And if this is him coming into the pits now, though that dirty tyre argument, he could have locked up here potentially. Oh, that's way too quick. Oh, wow.
Not even close, unfortunately. Up to 180 k's an hour and then not getting it down to 40 anything near in time. It was like he was doing 80 k's an hour crossing that. That's, you know, 80 and a 40 zone's getting dangerously close to saying bye-bye to your license, I think.
Yeah, we're lucky that
it's more than one demerit point, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, we're lucky it's only us with the radar gun and Nim Cross and not the South Australia Police. Otherwise, he might have been in trouble.
Yeah, that'll be a couple of penalty units. And it's going to cost him big time. Still a couple laps away from how far we think they can get into this race on the starting fuel. Recapping that the top 3, Scott Gamble, Paul Young and Wayne Walker. Ken Ladder's up into 9th now with the stop from McNamara. Here's Scott Mackay just in behind Christopher Burridge into turn 3, and with his teammate Chad Lewis behind in 12th.
Yes, still plenty of great battles going on down the pack here, and the Logitech boys are going to have to work together here to get past Kennedy, I reckon, because he has been... Christopher Burridge, not Kennedy. Burridge he's got a couple of extra positions here. He's in the top 10, so he's a bit further up than where we've seen him at times this season, and I reckon he'll want to keep that top 10 as well. So Mackay and Lewis are going to have to work together on this one as teammates and try and get the double move done on him, I reckon. But he looks like he's got their number for now, as Latham has also come into the pits to get his first service of the race.
Well, here's the race lead, and it has shrunk and shrunk. Sean McNamara, to add worse to worse to worse to worse, I'm counting 4 things now, has a penalty for contact with Ken Latter in turn 1 that we saw. And then, well, he was off track twice, speeding in pit lane once since then, and now he'll be heading to pit lane again. This is your race leaders. Now, at this kind of distance back, I think there's some slipstream to be had to put a cherry on the cake for Paul Young.
I completely agree here, and I think this is where a bit of that strategy comes into you, underfuel a bit to try and jump Gamble in the pit stops. Young has had the pace all this last sort of 10 laps we've been watching, and he's just been bit by bit chipping away at that gap, and now I reckon he's got some slipstream, and he's got a heck of a lot of motivation here to try and grab this race lead.
Yes, interesting. So breaking into turn 6. Gamble turning in to a late apex. Paul Young turning in just a little bit earlier. A couple of places there's some different lines around here. And this sort of turn 8, 9, 10 as well, I'm seeing some different lines, and it feels like it just slightly tightens as you go. So if you get right to the apex of one, then you're a little tight to the next as well. Some drivers actually staying off a little bit of the curb in places.
Yeah, as you said, interesting to see the different lines, and obviously a bit of a difference in setup and that sort of thing as well. And it was curious to see they seem to have slightly different driving philosophies. One of them is a slow in and fast out. One of them's fast in and slow out sort of thing. And I think that Young is a bit faster into the corner, but then Gamble's able to just drive off the corner a little bit better, which is probably what's protecting Gamble's lead just at the moment. Even though Young, he ranges up in the corners at the apex, Gamble's just able to step away a bit in that second phase out on the exit, as Young's gone a little bit wide there and nearly off the track at the second to last turn, if I'm not mistaken here, and they'll come round now to finish lap 19 and start lap 20 as, no, our leader is in the pits.
So Paul Young will get to add lap lead to his resume on this one for today, because Scott Gamble comes in. A lot of the rest of the field staying out, looking to get to lap 20 or so, split this race into 3 pieces of cake if they can. Walker stays out, Ross stays out. Who's actually going to join Scott Gamble? Well, Christopher Burridge and Scott Mackay are this time around.
So starting to see a few more drivers come in as part of that pit cycle. We're nearing that 20 lap stint at the moment, so expect to see most drivers in fairly shortly as well. Over the next lap or two. Darren Lobb has received a points penalty for that incident with Sean McNamara. So he redressed it, so it wasn't a pit penalty, but he will receive a points penalty for that one, as race control has decided. So he will continue to race on from where he is at the moment, in 6th on track at the moment, with some pit stops happening around him.
Also lost a fair bit of time in that redress. That's where he ended up behind Travis Hunt, and how Travis Hunt ended up in the top 5, where he sits right now at the moment. Lobb was 4/10 quicker last lap though, and we're expecting either end of this lap or end of next, almost everyone on pit lane. There's a whole chunk more in at the moment. Gary Buckland, Sandman, etc. Is the pace difference that Darren Lobb has had.
So the interesting thing to see here is, can Darren work his way back through the pack a bit? We know he's got some good speed here at the moment, so you feel like through this what will now be middle stint of the race, there's definitely a little bit of pace for him to make up, and some places he can get to. And I think Travis is coming in now. Hunt, Travis actually let him know, so Lob managed to jump out of the way and not cause an incident there, but Lob will go through and now take second place as Paul Young has ducked into the pits, as well as Jordan Ross and Michael Stewart.
Wayne Walker carries on, Darren Lobb carries on, Michael Whiting carries on, but there's more drivers going in than staying out this lap up top, including all of this group. No speeding on pit lane penalties from this group so far. Here's Stacey Boyd, and coming in.
So we'll have a nearly fully cleansed field here of pit stops for this first third of the race now. So I'd say we're officially now in this second third, even though we've got a couple of drivers yet to pit. Now, curiously, we're just waiting to see where some of these guys roll out. We did mention the long pit times and the transit and pit lane, so we're just waiting to see where Paul Young comes out compared to Scott Gamble. I think we're about to see Gamble fly down the front straight.
Did Young's car just drop and pop up again? Long stop for Paul Young.
A very long stop. Wow. He's lost heaps of time.
I thought I saw the car drop and go back up again. It's certainly not a quick first stop. It's not an outrageous, unbelievable pit stop, but it is certainly longer than what almost everyone else is doing. We've got just 4 or 5 drivers that we're waiting on. Greg Sharp has a penalty.
I'm just trying to figure out where he's gotten that. Possibly out. Yeah, he's disengaged the pit limiter coming out of his box, and he's gotten up to 50 kilometers an hour, so not quite as speedy as Sean McNamara, but that's enough for the iRacing gods to give you a penalty, and that'll be a big one as well.
So the range of pit stop length mostly is between 30 and 40 seconds. There's some, like Scott Gamble, 38. There's like 39.6 for Ken Latta, but I'm not seeing anyone like Paul Young. Actually, Greg Sharp looks like he might have gone for 50-ish seconds.
So we heard in the background from our producer that large sort of 50-second stop may be just filling the tank to the brim. I'll be curious to see if that's how it works out when we come to this second pit stop, this second compulsory pit stop later in the race, because if so, Paul might have just done a masterstroke and be able to do a far shorter pit stop at the other end of this race, but we'll have to wait and see how that all unfolds. Because we've got Scott Gamble, I'm just looking here, Scott Gamble is leading, but in the background, we've got Ross and Muggleton duking it out, as Ross has actually gone through into second place and has now been released to go and chase down Scott Gamble. So this is Jordan Ross was, I believe, in 5th or 6th before the pit cycle, and he's now come out in 2nd with similar pit stop times to those around him.
So this is what's confusing me for Wayne Walker. I see that pit box time, but I see that the pit lane time 3 or 4 seconds longer than other people with similar box times. Now, I thought lane transit was sort of 31 seconds, but that's 36 or so for Walker. I think he might have lost a little bit of time in pit lane as well. Probably could have been ahead of Rushworth and Hunt. Now, Andrew Rushworth here stopped lap 3, didn't take a massive amount of fuel, so I think big picture is not really in this fight. His tyres are quite old here, but it will be costing time to Travis Hunt and Wayne Walker that they're behind him and not in front of him like Jordan Ross, Matt Muggleton and Michael Stewart are.
Yeah, completely agree. And as you can see, Travis Hunt is trying to find a way through here, and Rushworth, I think he's trying to let them through. He knows this isn't his race. Unfortunately, he's just run off the track there as well. But with those older tyres, it's definitely not his race at the moment. We're now looking at Travis Hunt on the Zoom wall as he's now under assault by Wayne Walker, fighting for 5th and 6th at the moment. Wayne looking to regain some turf, and Travis having a really good night at the moment, up 9 positions on his starting.
Still be interested to see Wayne Walker versus anyone with a similar stop time comparison. So maybe Walker versus Ross. Wayne Walker is certainly quick, and he's putting some pressure on and worrying Travis Hunt a little bit into this turn 1, 2, 3 segment. If you can stay alongside through 2, you can pop to the inside there in 3. And he's just worrying Travis Hunt a little bit about it in this middle stint of the race.
And it looks like Walker, I was about to say, got this done, and he has swept across the nose of Hunt, and he's managed to get that one done and dusted there. So good fight put up by Travis, and he's gonna, excuse me, he looks like he might have just given him a little bit of a tap on the back to let Walker know that he was there, but that's that one done. Walker's now released to go chase down Michael Stewart and that sort of leading pack and make up some of that time that he's lost.
And in absolute terms, there's a pretty wide variety of pit stop times because a 300-kilometre race and the incredible amount of fuel that they need to add. So if you're just a little bit shorter in this first stop, it can be 10 seconds difference here. We're not used to that sort of difference. So we'll take another look here. Yeah, typical fuel burn about 4 litres a lap means that the total fuel to add could be as high as 170 litres, and we still haven't reached the critical lap number for the second stop. Sean McNamara called time on this? I think so.
Frustrating night here for Sean McNamara with those penalties and that, and it all really kicked off with that bump with Lob, and that's where the problem started, unfortunately. So I'm sure we'll see him back next week, but he's decided to park the car for the night.
So there's Travis Hunt now in 6th. Muggleton versus Michael Stewart just up the road here. Pretty quick stop for Muggleton. A tiny bit longer for Michael Stewart is how Stewart's ended up behind him. Heading towards turn 6, Stewart's looking and getting in there pretty hot, just enough to make Muggleton make the mistake. The psychic mind power of Michael Stewart gets him up into 3rd place. If you're going to commit, go commit big, and that's what Michael Stewart did, and it's worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, that psychic mind power, it well and truly psyched Muggleton out just enough to sneak down the inside. And I got to say, I think the psychitude that Stewart brought is still psyching Muggleton out a bit, because he's having some moments through these sweeping turns in the middle of the circuit here, trying to get his car under control. But up ahead, Michael Stewart is looking under control and only a couple of seconds off Jordan Ross at the moment. So well and truly in the fight here for a podium position at the moment.
Tiny bit of lap traffic ahead. Jordan Ross has already gone by in the 2nd place. Now you look at 3rd and 4th approaching it. There's live points that has Gamble jumping ahead of Walker. Both of them jumping ahead of Sean McNamara. Oh, contact! 3rd place goes around. Sorry, 4th place goes around.
It was that with the lapped car there as well. Oh, that's unfortunate for Muggleton. He was in a really good spot there in 4th place. It has now dropped all the way back to 9th, but with no pace at the moment. So Young and Lob are ranging up on him into turn 1 here. Young's going to try to throw it down the inside, get this move done. Are they going to go 3 wide here? Not quite. Muggleton gets out of the way, but Young is...
Walker's off as well. Oh, no. No, he hasn't also, has he?
Is that the same lap car there?
It's off, yes.
This is disastrous for a couple of our key players in this race tonight. They've managed to get going again.
Wayne Walker back on track. Let's take a look. So this is Muggleton. And Stewart ahead gets past. And then, oh my goodness, this better not look like what I think it's going to look like for Wayne Walker. Well, that's atrocious. That is simply atrocious.
Yeah, that's not on. And Walker would have never seen that one coming from a mile away. He would have thought he's safe and through turn one. There's no way he can avoid that or even anticipate that happening.
Christopher Burridge here 5th. Rushworth 6th. Scott Mackay 7th. Robin Young in 8th and 9th, both really long stops. Young had about 15 seconds more of fuel than Scott Gamble and is now 19 seconds behind. So that extra weight now and the extra traffic, all of that. Scott Gamble's got clean air, and now it's shoe on the other foot, significantly quicker than Paul Young.
But one Mr. Jordan Ross has closed that gap by about a second to him. So, and we've just heard that car number 34 was the one involved in that incident with Muggleton, and then a separate incident with Wayne Walker, and they have been removed from the server due to being in the wrong split. So, unfortunate issue there, and unfortunate for Walker and Muggleton, who were caught up in all of that, but that driver's now been removed from this split. But we'll look at the battle going on track here in front of us. So we've got Burridge and Mackay here, who has seemed to have been attached just by a bit of a magnet most of this race. You know, we've been coming back and checking in on them every 5 or so laps, and they still just are there together. Burridge maintaining that position, maintaining. He's now up another few positions on where we saw him, albeit with a slightly smaller standing pit stop time compared to some of those around him in the top 10.
Group of Burridge, Mackay, Rushworth being closed by Darren Lobb, Paul Young, Ken Latta, Matt Muggleton. Interesting to see. The top 4 have all got a little bit more clear space, and then it becomes congested again back here around the 5th place on back. Chad Lewis also with Wayne Walker just in the back, a shot I spot there as well, heading onto the front straight again.
Another excellent battle pack tonight. We've seen it with that in the top 5. Now we're looking at the back of the top 10. It's great to see. And again, some of the bigger names, I mean, the same names we were looking at earlier are just a bit further back now with some of these incidents in the strategy. As Walker now working his way back through the pack there, past Chad Lewis into turn 3 now. So I can imagine there's a bit of red mist going on for Walker, and he'll be a man possessed to try and make up some of that lost time.
Into turn 6 with Michael Stewart just on their tail. Oh, bit wide back there for John Gallen, was it? I think John Latham's just passed him and up into 15th. Gallen a little wide at 16th amongst this battle. Is that Sharp a lap down they've got near them? It is. So, when did Sharp last stop? 4 laps ago. Gallen fishtailing somewhat, having last stopped 6 laps ago.
And Sharp had his black flag in the pit, so I reckon that's why he's after speeding. So I reckon that's why he's so out of sync here and a lap down. But So we're just hearing, we reckon he's had a full stop in the pits, so full tank right up to the brim, and then he's gotten the drive-through, so it's really set him back in terms of the race. Unfortunately for Greg, 19 spots down on where he started, and likely, geez Louise, John Gallen got close to drilling the back of Sharp there, so probably just needs to keep his wits about him now being a lapped car there in the middle of this battle here for the top 15. 16 rather.
Some moves happening a little further up the road. I see Darren Lobb's gotten by Andrew Rushworth. Paul Young will be next. Greg Sharp just getting out of the way as and when he can.
And I mean, there's only so much you can do with Sharp. You're trying to run your own race here. There's obviously the pit stop happened, and it is what it is, but you don't want to just park the car and let everyone by if you don't have to. So he's doing a good job to not ruin anyone else's race while continuing to run his own there. As now I believe he's got Dean Flavel behind. As you can see, he just jumps out of the way there, but doesn't park the car, just gets up high, lets the drivers through who are on the lead lap through, and everyone can play on. So there you go, another example of it. But look, we've got an interesting... the race has settled down a bit. We had a very exciting first 20 laps, David. Now we're getting into that middle stint rhythm of an enduro, right? This is our second sort of 20 laps worth of race where everyone's just trying to manage the car before the crazy final stint.
Yeah, looking at Matt Brunt versus Scott McCune on another day, this could be a fight inside of the top 10, but it's 35th and 36th for no reasons that are really sticking out to me, other than maybe they just haven't got their head around the bend.
Well, I know the bend gives me the bend, so I can sympathise with them if they are having some trouble wrapping their head around this massive track here at the bend with all the lefts, rights, ups and downs that it comes with. But it's looking like Matt Brunt is under attack a little bit here. McCune with a little bit more pace in hand and just trying to find a way through at the moment on him. But nothing to be said here. Again, Brunt just being able to keep it just ahead of the key points there in his Synergy Sim Racing Camaro.
Yep, just for the moment. Of course, tough to overtake around those parts of the lap. You're looking at a run onto the front straight, or others. They've got Darren Goosey that they're closing quite quickly just in front of them as well. Oh, Goosey a little offline in there. Closing in mighty quickly. There is the pace for Goosey, even at the final corner. Shoot down the inside goes Brunt, and along goes Scott McCune as well. I wonder if things aren't quite all right for Darren Goosey.
Yeah, seems he was a bit slow and was having some issues there. So in the pits now, getting some fuel and tyres, and hopefully all is good for Darren there. But again, well done getting out of the way and letting those guys through to continue racing. As now we're looking at Wayne Walker, who has now gotten past Andrew Rushworth as well. So continuing that march through the pack, his next target will be Matt Muggleton, who was the other driver involved in those couple of incidents earlier. So this will be interesting when those guys get together. Muggleton is actually at the back of that pack that is led by Paul Young. So Walker's about to get himself really into the thick of it at the back of the top 10.
The Rushworth actually just had a little moment. Well, Darren Lobb had a moment, and then Rushworth was just behind him, got checked up, and a couple of cars went through. So I think Young, Latter, Muggleton all got past Andrew Rushworth. Wayne Walker as well. Ken Latter's going to have a look towards Paul Young. Paul Young's sort of fighting out of his weight bracket here with the really long first stop that he had. It might come back around to him. He was at one point battling for the race lead. Now it's sort of here 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th.
So Paul's still got a bit of pace in him at the moment, and he's battling hard and continuing to sort of climb up, because he and Lobb were together not long ago. So Paul is finding some pace here, and he's got a bit of room in front of him. Looking at Gamble versus Young here. So the gap on track is, as we can see, 19.8 seconds, 19.8, 20 seconds there. But the gap in the box is about 15 seconds. So if we assume this is all fuel, then Young's got about 15 seconds worth of fuel on Gamble, which would bring them right back in together at the end of this second stint.
Well, Jordan Ross has been closing the gap to Scott Gamble. Ross has been quicker the last couple of laps, got it down to 4.5 seconds. Not erasing the lead quite as quickly as Paul Young was able to towards the end of the first stint. Now this is the Young group. Origin Mackay. So that's one of the things. Yeah, Wayne Walker versus Jordan Ross there. Incredibly similar pit stop times, pit box times. Significantly longer pit lane time for Wayne Walker.
Yeah, well, 3.5 seconds just doesn't make sense there, does it? Because you'd think you all get down to 40k an hour, and then when you get back out of the pits, you're at 40k an hour. So where does that 3.5 seconds go? And that's critical on track. It really is. As now we're looking at, speaking of on track, Christopher Burridge and Scott Mackay, both having some good nights out there on track. Up 7 for Burridge and up 10 for Mackay. We talked about how these guys have been pretty locked in together most of this race, but now Mackay's looking to maybe change the order here and get ahead and let Burridge look at his rear bumper for a little bit.
Yep, and with Paul Young and Ken Latter and Darren Lobb just in the background there as well. Left side tyres take a real beating in these fast, continuously flowing corners, and then boom, again, over the crest a little bit, drop down just a tiny bit through the right-hander. Burridge gives it just a little bit of a slide.
But Burridge still holding his own here on what has been a good run for him tonight so far, as we're actually just about at the halfway point of this 300-kilometre race. So 150 kilometres down, they're past the sprint distance, and now this is all enduro. They've got to really grit their teeth and get this done here, coming through the midpoint of this race, the midpoint of this second stint as well. So Mackay making a small mistake there, just getting ever so slightly loose, giving Burridge a bit of a breath of fresh air. But you said it earlier, David, not far behind these two is the battle pack that Paul Young is leading down to Wayne Walker. So right now we're looking the next few laps to have the battle on from 5th back to 11th.
Yeah, 154.4 from Paul Young, 154.8 from Burridge and Mackay, 154.3 for Scott Gamble leading the race, and 154.2 for Jordan Ross in second place, just slowly closing it down. So that's the variation of the lap times. Everyone's somewhere in the 154s. This isn't low, mid, or high.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So I think everyone's in a bit of a... No one's sprinting. They're in very much a maintenance mode at the moment, looking after those tyres, getting through this stint. We've gotten out of that crazy race start period. So I think the gaps are just enough now. We're not going to see any crazy moves, and we're, already being halfway through this middle stint. You just want to make it to that final stint, then you can worry about making your race finishing moves to grab those positions you so desperately want.
Most calculations were just 1 or 2 laps past the critical lap number for making your final stop, but with the complete unrestricted fuel tank, it would be a long way to get home, particularly on your set of tyres. So around lap 40, or just a tiny bit before, we expect to see a couple more pit stops once again, but you could stop now. Not recommending it. Darren Goosey looks like he might have parked up for the night as well. He had the 37th of 37 pit stalls in the lane, so we actually saw both of the times he entered pit lane, and he had to make a hard left turn almost immediately at 40 k's an hour to get into his pit stall.
So we're going to go have a look at Matty Mascord, who is on his own out on track, and it has been relatively quiet, but we haven't had a chance to look at his driver's eye view camera, which is quite cool with his triple screen setup there. So watching him now coming through the last couple of turns as he has a big lose. The commentator's curse, we've done him in. But what a save. What a save there, and on board for that one. So there's your action shot for the night, everyone. That was quite impressive. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that might be... That's a Fanatec rim there as well. So, no, we do like appreciating the setups of all of our V8 Vets drivers in the series, because they obviously put a whole lot of love and passion into sim racing in this series in particular. So great to see him with an excellent setup there, and certainly familiar with it, managing to save the heck out of that thing at the second last turn on the last lap.
Great look on board with Mascord. All that, but no gloves. So something to think about. Cost him just a tiny bit of time, and now Ricky Hyde's not that far behind him here, 26th, 27th. Hyde also took a little bit more fuel first time around, enough that he could jump him at stop number 2 when that comes up for these drivers. There you go. Shameless fan service continues on SimSpeed TV. Looking at Stacey Boyd in 31st position at the moment. 42 seconds of fuel at that first stop is a little above average. So while you currently see down 10 positions, I think that will correct at least a little bit around the second stop.
Yeah, and look, that's what we're really waiting for here, isn't it, David? That correction of the strategy with that second stop. And usually in these V8 Vets races, when they're a bit shorter, we don't see such a big range, because normally we've got a limit on the tank depending on the size of the race we do. Whereas here with this 300-kilometre enduro, we really need the uncapped tank to get these cars to the end and give them some options of how they want to run their race. So the admins have done a really good job planning out the strategy for this one to give everyone some options. But what that means is the field's a bit jumbled at the moment, as I'm sure you've all noticed at home with the order we've got at the moment. But what'll be interesting to see, I won't say it'll correct itself, but what'll be interesting to see is how that then pans out coming the end of this pit stop cycle. We'll see in no doubt the next few laps.
And the pendulum swings one way, and then perhaps it begins to swing back in a couple of these battles. Particularly for some drivers that took a lot of fuel at the first stop. Drivers like we think Paul Young or Darren Lobb, or indeed Stacey Boyd. Here's Michael Whiting 13th, just ahead of John Latham 14th. Not too dissimilar pit stops between them. Andrew Rushworth just behind, so he has had quite a few cars eventually through this middle stint work their way past, as his tyres are past their best. Lap 29, hello. This will be how Michael Whiting and John Latham got past. Oh, yeah, those rear tyres are done skis, I reckon, for Andrew Rushworth. They've gone 29 laps to get to here. He's only got to go 28 to get home, so get rid of those. Get new ones, I reckon.
He's doing well at the moment in 15th, keeping it there, managing to hold on to the car like that. It's no laughing matter doing 30 laps on these tyres, but now we're looking back at Wayne Walker, who still got Matt Muggleton in tow there, but the key thing here is they're just edging up to Lobb and this battle pack ahead of him. You know, Lobb, Ladder, Young, and now we've got Mackay and Burridge in that too. So what we prophesised earlier is beginning to come true, as this 5th to 11th crew of drivers is starting to just slowly drift together. And will we see some of the antics we saw coming up to the pit stop last time around? Who knows, but I think we're in for a bit of excitement here.
Yeah, Ken Ladder is still right behind Paul Young, but Young has been closing in Burridge and Mackay. So when it eventually all comes together, what happens is the question. It's still only just gone past the halfway point of this race, but we have gone past the critical lap number. So if you're thinking, I want to stop and get a tyre undercut, you could do it, even if it set you up for a very long run home. And Jordan Ross has also just been slowly closing in on that race lead, now to 3 seconds, just taking a couple of tenths every lap.
Yeah, managing the tyres well there, I think. He's obviously not using them too much, but the question is Gamble, because Gamble seems to have had the number of the field, right? He has been the leader from the start, and is he just managing himself, making the fuel last, the tyres last, and what does he have in the tank should someone like Ross, or even if Paul Young's strategy works out, if Young catches up? And we've got Mackay wide. He's going to lose
heaps of spots, so Burridge, Young, Latter, Lobb, Walker all go past. Yeah, so Mackay deep, running off wide past turn 1, loses a couple of spots. We're wondering what would happen as this group began to close in, and Scott Mackay feels the pressure.
Yeah, very unfortunate for Mackay. He was running well up there with Burridge, and as we'd mentioned, they were attached to the hip, or the bumper rather, most of this race. So he hasn't lost too much. Like, he's still within this little battle pack here, but fallen behind Walker and in front of Muggleton there in 10th spot. So that releases more of the pack. So Young will now be focused on Burridge and trying to make his way past him to get back into that top 5 and see if this strategy can work out, while behind them you've then got Ladder, Lobb, Walker, Mackay, and now Muggleton looking fairly racy on Mackay as well. In fact, for Mackay might need to watch out here. Muggleton looks like he has a lot of pace to burn here.
Yeah, and Muggleton wants to stay connected to that group as well. So if he's dropping back a little bit, then he's not going to be appreciating that. Dean Flavel ahead of Steve Kennedy, 17th and 18th place. Sequence of left-handers just here. Is it Dino Dino check-in? I'm going to make my guess 115.
I'm going to go 108. Drum roll, please.
Okay, wow.
108 on the nose.
Congratulations, Dr. Brock.
Now let me just send my my weekly gift card through to Dean for the tip. And no, I'm kidding. But Dean certainly, he's keeping it under control at the moment, despite battling hard here. He's keeping that heart rate under control, nearly below 100 now.
Wow, I think I need Dean as my yoga instructor or something. That's great. That's zen. Namaste, Dean Flavel. That is beautiful.
Now, we've seen it get up towards the 120s when he's battling, but this is man and machine one and the same as he drives around the bend here on this Thursday night on lap 36 of this Enduro.
Dean Logsdale in pit lane for the 3rd time today. 25 laps still to go, but he could make it. Sharing his pit stall with the safety car, apparently. The engine better not still be running on that thing, come on. Kirby 20th, leading the group here. Wayne Sanderson, Luke Allman, Troy Stonestreet, Damien Cairns, and Race Smith. Smith was on the receiving end of, I think, a little bit of bullying in this group earlier on. He was a bit higher up, lost a couple of spots in a flurry, didn't catch exactly how. But he's connected to the tail of the group now. With David Kirby. So no head-worn camera, but gloves.
Are you really a serious sim racer if you don't have a set of gloves? At least one, if not 2.
Decent shift or 2, couple of downshifts in the penultimate corner for David Kirby. Up the road, a couple of drivers heading for pit lane. Matt Muggleton and Andrew Rushworth are both in. So certainly on the early side for Matt Muggleton. For Andrew Rushworth, I'm actually surprised that he ran his middle stint as long as he has. These are drivers that are going to be fueled up and tired and ready to run to the end, even if it is at 25 laps. Still a decent run to the checkered flag in that final stint.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see that tyre differential really kick in as well. So that'll be where, well, I mean, Rushworth, full credit to him, has done a great job considering the age of those tyres. He really hasn't dropped too much when he was out on track before this pit stop. So it'll be curious to see how it goes. Muggleton, I reckon, here is trying to get a bit of an undercut. Stuck a bit in that battle with Mackay behind Walker. This could be his way to get something back. As now we're on board with Luke Allman and with Zoomwall Cam at his rig setup here. Chasing down now 19th and 18th up ahead of him here. Allman himself is up 8 positions. Good run so far. And with traffic behind, he is not alone out there on track, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's Troy Stone Street's nose, moving one side, moving the other, right underneath the rear wing at the moment. And looking for the inside. Right-hander top of the hill. Troy Stone Street goes through into 20th. Ooh, Paul Young's coming in. So, fingers crossed for him and his competitiveness that this will actually be a pretty quick stop based on the first one. We'll wait and see. But if that is the case, Paul Young will be running the car quite heavy for a bit of this race. The battle's on in among the group that he was amongst. It's also on right here. So Ken Lauder, Darren Lobb, Wayne Walker might be costing each other a little bit of time. Paul Young has to roll the whole length of pit lane to find his crew. Luke Allman also jumps in. There's Ken Lauder running just through the dirt a little bit. Here's a look down the inside at turn 6 from Darren Lobb, who has a bit of a lock-up. There'll be contact. They'll still be side by side coming off the exit here. So this is exactly, I think, what Paul Young was trying to get out and away of. Wayne Walker down the inside of Lobb. Lobb's a car width wide. Track's a bit dirty out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, this is probably, with all this battling here, I'm just going to say, Lobb he's hanging in there. And he'll still keep it there alongside Walker. They're still side by side. Just Walker will clear him here. Well done to Darren, trying to keep the car in there, but unfortunately that'll be all she wrote at the moment as Walker's now gone through. But could this be a bit of a masterstroke from Paul Young? Because he's just gotten away from this battle here and it's probably made up quite a bit of time by not getting involved. And look at that pit stop time.
Yeah, that's... I guess I thought it could have been a bit quicker than that, but not terrible. That's all right. Let's see. I think he's definitely still contending for a top 5, but I'm just not sure that the strategy or the pit stop was what was optimal the first time around. And this is always the sort of thing you say before you know how it's going to finish up. John Latham's around just up there. You kind of wait until you see what the winning strategy is before you say what the correct strategy was. We're just sort of guessing a little at the moment. Chris Burridge in, and it wouldn't surprise me if John Latham comes in. But it also doesn't surprise me that he stays out.
Yeah, John Latham will keep going even after that half spin that we saw in the background of that shot there. We'll get a replay here now, looking at him coming into the second last turn here. Looks like he's just overcooked it a little bit. And to avoid hitting, I think that was the back of, was it Chad Lewis there?
Chad Lewis.
He has locked up and managed to avoid him, but unfortunately had a half spin there in his efforts. But that's okay. Play on there. I don't think he really lost too much out of that, and he'll continue on. We even bumped him just a little bit.
Bit of hands work going on as well as the rear's locked up as he stamped the brakes. Well, drivers coming in with 22 laps to go. Burridge, Ray Smith, Stephen Clark, Wayne Sanderson. They're all going through the lane right now, and those other pit stops just clear a little bit of the mid-pack for some of the leaders to pit now if they want to as well. As where things are at as far as the track map. And those are car numbers, not positions, if indeed you can read any of them.
And that is an important one to note. Otherwise, Scott Gamble and Jordan Ross will be 543rd and 143rd in this 39-car server. So,
but feel for Michael Stewart, car number 919.
or Christian Smart, car number 999.
Make Matt Muggleton car number 2, or Troy Stone Street car number 4 look very smart. But what about the safety car, 001?
It was their plan all along, right, to be the number 1 car. As now we look at Scott Gamble. So we've been talking about Jordan Ross in this gap, right? And just quietly, while we're looking at other things, Ross has been eating into this. So this is, I won't lie, I haven't looked at this gap in a few laps. It's now 2 seconds closer than when I last looked. 1.4 seconds, or excuse me, 1.2 seconds there. Ross, look at that. Each lap, just bit by bit by bit, chipping away. So Gamble here has got to play it smart. When does he pit? And then Ross, the curious thing we see, does Ross try to do an extra couple of laps to get the overcut, or will he follow Gamble in for this last pit stop?
These two have now got 20 seconds on third place, because you've had Michael Stewart and Travis Hunt come into the pit lane for their final stops with 21 laps to go. A whole heap of other drivers pitting about now as well. Ross almost within that 1 second now, I think. Ross is thinking about pitting, and it's sort of that 1 or 2 laps before pit stop you really ramp it up. The cars will be pretty light right now as well for these drivers based on their first stop times.
Yeah, so as you said, right now's the time to use the tyre. Whatever you've got left in it, they're getting taken off the car in a lap or 2 anyway. Use it and really do some special in-laps here, as now both are in. So Ross has followed Gamble in. Get it stopped. Oh, Ross made up a good bit of time there as well. No one from behind so far. Excuse me, those are lap cars there that are going by, but this will be interesting here. Gamble and Ross through the pits, the long trundle down. Who's going to come out in the lead after this?
And with the second stop time of Paul Young, it is correcting compared to everyone else. So total pit stop time across both stops is shaping up like it needs to be a bit over 70 seconds. And that's what Paul Young has achieved. He's now jumped back ahead of Michael Stewart and Travis Hunt after their second stop. So it's kind of back to Paul Young versus Scott Gamble and Jordan Ross.
So this will be a very interesting pit exit here once these guys come out. So not only are we watching Scott Gamble versus Jordan Ross, we also are keeping an eye on here Paul Young, who is coming around the circuit now. Second last turn here. And now to the last turn to come onto the main straight. And Gamble and Ross are now both out of the pit. So Gamble has maintained that lead with Ross in, maintained that effectively with Ross in second place. But who's that we see in the background? Paul Young.
Couple of drivers still in between yet to make their second stop, like Stacey Boyd, but this suddenly puts Paul Young a lot closer to the race lead, shapes it up as sort of a 3-way fight. Gamble versus Ross versus Paul Young, still waiting on a couple of other stops though. And the comparison now that we've had both pit stop times, Paul Young, remember, it was over 50 seconds at his first stop. Scott Gamble's 2 stops have both been about 35 seconds each. So Young's cumulative pit stop time just a couple of seconds longer than Gamble and Jordan Ross.
Yeah, but look at that. In the case of this race, that will have made all the difference between coming out in the lead and now being back in what is around effective third, I would call it. As Stacey Boyd in the background, Stacey Boyd's now jumped out of the way there. So those 3 are free to races. Now we're looking at Wayne Walker's in the pit lane here as more drivers are starting to come in, and with Ken Latta too. So starting to see this lead pack cleansing now, and this will be curious to see where these guys come out relative to the guys we've been talking about.
Yeah, almost everyone else coming in. Darren Lobbs stayed out, so he's briefly, for the moment now, the race leader. Got around him a lot of drivers that have made their 2 stops and are at least the moment a lap down, and will probably get back on the lead lap when Lobb stops. Also looking for a second stop for Stacey Boyd, but that's about it as far as the field goes. On lap 42 of 61, It's now a short run home, inverted commas. You've got almost everyone having made their second pit stop. Latter versus Walker versus others coming out of the lane. Michael Stewart and Travis Hunt still look like they're going to be net 4th and 5th based on that. So really quick guys, Ken Latter, Wayne Walker, etc. are just going to be behind them for the time being.
Yeah, so this is what we were talking about earlier, the strategy kind of shaking the race out. The middle stint, everything was a little bit jumbled, and now we're starting to see the true positions of this race with now only about 20 laps to go. I say only, but as you were saying earlier, 20 laps is still a long way to go here. But Darren Lobb, we would expect him in probably this lap, in all honesty. To just do that, split the race up as we talked about earlier into those thirds. He comes around now onto the front straight. He's going to keep going.
He took a pretty decent slug of fuel at that first stop based on the pit stop time.
So potentially trying that longer running strategy, get onto some fresh tyres a little bit later into this race and see if he can drive up towards the front a bit further and nullify that undercut advantage a few of the drivers that will eventually be ahead of him have.
Damien Cairns also hasn't made second stop yet, but it's basically just those two. Here's Cairns right now through 1. Turn 2, there's a bit of gravel on the track. Christian Smart was off earlier this lap.
And thanks to iRacing's fairly realistic physics here, when you do run through gravel, it does actually make a difference to you feel the steering get a bit light and lift in your hands a bit. So you do have to be a little bit careful when you see that, not to gas these things up too hard on the exit of a turn to risk spinning it. So these guys managing it well. Scott Gamble out front here, Ross behind in the back of shop there. Paul Young will just pop in there too. So that's our effective top 3 at the moment. And as you mentioned, Dave, with Lobb and Can still yet to pit, but these guys are the ones who are fighting for the podium at the moment. Bit of air between them. Gamble managed to pull out a bit of time after that pit stop. It was down to under a second, and now we're looking at just about 2 seconds between Gamble and Ross at the moment.
Looking at how much time Paul Young right now has got on Ken Latter and Wayne Walker, etc., and I feel like he really sort of tied himself in some unnecessary knots in that middle stint by exactly how long his first stop was.
Yeah, I agree, David. I think we commented that he was quite a way down the order, and he really had to do some battling to pull himself out of that sort of hole he'd fallen into to get back towards that top 5. And really, he probably shouldn't have ever been in that position to begin with. So we'll see how he goes. But now we're looking back at this battle for 27th at the moment. So someone's off in the background there as well. It's all going on here. We always fight hard. Now we're looking at Darren Lobb as Ricky Hodge spun.
Well, he's leading the race right now, but he's got himself into a little bit of traffic exiting turn 6. He's lit up those old rear tyres, looped himself around, cost himself a whole chunk of time. We know that come the completion of his second stop, Darren Lobb's going to be battling for a top 10 against drivers like Ken Latter and Wayne Walker, but that's clearly gone and cost him quite significantly there.
Absolutely. That there could well put him quite a way. I know it was only a half a spin, but it could put him quite a ways behind where he would have wanted to have popped out there, and it means that he's just got to do that much more work on this new set of tyres that he's going to pop on eventually. We will see where he pops out towards the end of this lap, and maybe if he just calls it quits on this set of tyres and goes, all right, it's time to come in. But clearly they are hurting. He's used the best of them up.
Relatively unforced error, just a big slide exiting turn 6. Yeah, odd to see from the race leader of the time.
We watch.
Yeah, that'll be it. Here we come, down to 40 k's an hour just in time. Feels incredibly slow from speed beforehand. And he's got a pretty long trip down towards the pit exit end of the racetrack. Is there a break in the garages there because of a spectator lounge or something? There is. Okay, the pit stalls are split into two parts here. Darren Lobb finds his pit stall, begins fueling, and will get his set of tyres that'll take him to the end. Now, what would he need? 75 minus 42, I can't do that in my head, but that's about what we reckon he'll need.
So about 30 seconds there for Lobbers. We did just see in the background there the leaders go shooting by. So that's Gamble, Ross, Young, Stewart and Hunt. That'll be Ladder also going by. And now Lobb is rolling out of the pits here. As we see, Ricky Hyde's been black flagged as well in the background there. So Lobb is now going to be 11th. That's 12th, 13th. He'll be 13th now after that. And he was running around in near about that top 5 before all the pit stops started. So that half a spin really, I think, has cost him.
Yeah, because it was his in-lap, I think it's actually going to be tough to measure how much time Darren Lobb did in fact lose to that, but I feel like it might have been between 5 and 10, like he could have been ahead of Burridge, Mackay and Lewis here, but instead he rejoins, gets going. He's about 2 seconds behind these drivers. Then Matt Muggleton, Michael Whiting's ended up as 8th right now. So another driver that sort of went a bit long first stop, a bit quicker second stop. Suddenly Whiting appears inside the top 10.
And I'm sure if you're Michael Whiting, you will take that up 10 positions on your qualifying and running around in the top 10 with a bit of distance behind and in front. That's exactly what you want when you're staring down the barrel of about 16 more laps here next time he crosses the line. So well done to Whiting. He does have Matt Muggleton behind there, just a second and a half behind, who has shown a good bit of pace this race, up one on his starting position, but has had a couple of small issues unfortunately plague what had been a good run for him so far.
Yeah, freshest tyres inside the top 10, Ken Ladder. Oldest tyres in the top 10 is Matt Muggleton. They're already 8 laps old with 16 laps more to go. Track temp sitting at 26 Celsius, so not frozen cold. But there is just a little bit of offset across the drivers in the top 10 based on when their second pit stops were. Last pit stop laps on the timing column now. Paul Young was one of the first to blink, but Muggleton was just a lap before him.
Yep, that's exactly it. So be curious that, look, right now we won't see the tyre differential make too much of a difference. It'll be really towards the end of this race in that last 5 laps when we see that come to the forefront. As now Darren Lobb looking to make up for that mistake earlier on. He is at the back of this battle pack here with Burridge, Mackay and Lewis. So, well, I hate to say it again, but Burridge, Mackay and Lewis are somehow back together again after these pit stops in this same line of 3. And Lobb is looking to make some moves and get back into this top 10 here. Nothing to be done through this section, as we mentioned earlier, not really for passing unless you're alongside. You'll just have to wait for his opportunity here. So now, does anything open up? He's looking, he's searching. I don't think you'll get the opportunity here up the hill. He'll just have to wait and see, put a bit of pressure on Lewis to see what he can find.
There's the better part of still half an hour of racing to go as well, so I think the opportunities will present themselves for Lobb. He can't be too impatient. Here's a place where you just need to get the exit perfectly, and I think he didn't. I think he was so quick through the medium speed corners, but he needs the traction if he's then going to look down the inside to try to take positions places like here. The apex speed is insane for Lobb, but he needs to be close enough to outbrake if he's going to make these moves. Burridge under pressure significantly from Scott Mackay just up the road as well, so turn 1's going to be an interesting spot for all parties involved. Here goes Darren Lobb. Now he gets a good look at Burridge and Mackay breaking into one. got Greg Sharp going a lap down in between here. We just sneak our way through. And all of this is closing in on Matt Muggleton, who might have just had a little bit of a problem around turn 1.
Yeah, I think you've called that right there, David. Muggleton did dip a tyre off there, as now we're looking at Stacey Boyd getting into it here as well. Who looks like he's just been a bit bullied, honestly, and beaten around through the middle of this lap. So we're going to have a look at a bit of a replay here at Stacey, and behind Sandman, locked up a bit into the marbles there as well. Oh, goodness. And trying to get back on track, trying to get back onto that racing line. And no contact there. He's just that once you get on the marbles here, we are very deep into this race. That off the racing line, is just treacherous. And he's done well to get it back on without going right off in the paddock.
Yeah, lap 47, and everyone's now on their third set of tyres. There's an incredible amount of discarded rubber building up in places like that. Once you get a couple of car widths offline, it's not been anyone's racing line throughout today. So it gets pretty messy there. So this is Gary Buckland still just ahead of Dean Logsdale. Logsdale really lost out through a handful of things, including the speeding on pit entry penalty that cost him, and I think he also had a drive-through separate to that. So amongst all of that, Dean Logsdale would have lost minutes through the pit lane. Now he's not wasting any time on track. Oh, Muggleton on the pit straight. He's leading a snake towards turn 1. They all tried to follow him. So Burridge gets down the inside, gets a little bit of a slide on. Darren Lobb's looking for 2 for 1 and gets it. Muggleton to try to strike back versus Burridge. But Darren Lobb now into 9th place. He's picked them off as he's gone.
And with those fresh tyres now, he will absolutely set his sights on trying to get up another position or 2 in this race. So you probably couldn't have asked for a better scenario of the seas parting for Darren Lobb, but he's gotten it, and now he's got clear track here. Not to mention, we were just talking about how Matt Muggleton is on some of the oldest tyres in the top 10 at the moment. That won't be a bother anymore. Lobb's got the youngest tyres in the top 10, and he can use them now. Muggleton still got Burridge behind, still at the back of our top 10, but Darren Lobb has been released.
So this is Matt Muggleton just leading them across to the right-hand side of the road. Burridge follows him, Lobb follows him, and then heading down in towards turn 1, Lobb's got heaps of grip on Burridge. Burridge gets in pretty hot there, but that's moved on, then parks it up in front of poor Muggleton, who loses 2 spots at once. Darren Lobb gains 2 spots at once. Muggleton then tries to get back in front of Burridge there. Darren Lobb says, "We'll see you guys." Jeff Thomas has just had a bit of a nightmare here. Down at turn 6, I think it is. He's had a lock-up contact made with Dean Logsdale. And I think it's put Thomas across the incident point limit.
I think you'd be right there, David. And unfortunately, Dean Logsdale just continuing to get involved in it. And a bad night goes worse for him, unfortunately. So plenty of chatter over the race control channels at the moment. I want to flash back to Scott Gamble and Jordan Ross, because they are now only a few tenths apart at the moment, and Ross has continued to close that gap, and now just in the last couple of corners was nearly on the bumper of Gamble. So I think right now Ross is starting to look, he's trying to find the weaknesses in Gamble's game and make some moves here. You know, we're not far from 10 laps to go in this thing, and while that's still a little way to go, Ross will want to win this one after a poor qualifying and start.
Yeah, I think back, and it feels like a little while to think back, that Jordan Ross qualified 4th. He was wrong-footed in the opening couple of corners, so he was running 8th for a little bit there. Now he really sort of came alive towards the end of the middle stint. We saw him close in towards Scott Gamble. The two of them pitted just about together. And now Jordan Ross looks like the quickest guy out on track, but it took him just a little bit to find that pace. Scott Gamble obviously had the pace for pole Paul Young seemed to have all of the pace towards the end of the first stint. Now, end of the second stint, third stint, the pace all belongs to Jordan Ross. Gets a great exit there following the slipstream of Scott Gamble. The gap's down to 3/10.
Yep, and we know here that Jordan won't do anything silly. We've seen him race this whole season. He's a very smart racer, savvy racer. He'll wait for his opportunity and he will take it when the time is right. And it's up to Scott to try and predict when that's going to come. And this gap just continues to lower and lower as we now watch them sweep through this first sector of the track and now come down into this hairpin. No moves being done there just yet as we see a drive-through penalty for Jeff Thomas for that incident with Logsdale, which we did catch the end of as well.
Yeah, I think it could even be a double drive-through situation for Jeff Thomas based on that. And I don't know what led Jeff Thomas down the inside, braking so deeply. 3/10 is this lead gap right now, looking backwards from Scott Gamble at Jordan Ross. They've got a total of 8 seconds in their pocket over Paul Young in third. Does Jordan Ross look to make this happen early, or is he patient with the knowledge of 11 laps still to come in this race?
I think he's patient. I think we know Jordan isn't someone to make a hasty move or take someone else out of a race. So right now, it's clear to see he's got a bit of pace over Scott, but now it's about finding that right opportunity, and I think that he'll just wait for it. I mean, look how close he is here. Honestly, 2/10 coming out of the last turn. That's enough to get a bit of a slipstream going here and try and look for a move, and we can already see Gamble's just positioning the car. No, he's going to go to the left here, and Ross is going to put it in behind. He's waiting for that certain moment. It's still too early in this race to start throwing Hail Marys down the inside at these heavy braking zones at the bend.
What an interesting view this is of the battle for the race lead. Scott Gamble and Jordan Ross. Gamble opening up the entry to 3 a little bit more. Jordan Ross perhaps almost thought that might have been his opportunity. Ends up a car length further back the braking zone into turn 6. Gamble rotates it just perfectly there. No overtaking opportunities around here, so long as the driver in front doesn't make a mistake and the pace just sort of bobbles a little bit. 175 back down to 160, pick up the pace a little bit more, and then just holding third gear, fourth gear through all of this. Oh, correction needed for Jordan Ross. Paul Young comfortably holding on to his third place. Travis Hunt and Michael Stewart getting a bit closer for 4th and 5th. Kenneth Ladder ahead of Wayne Walker, 6th and 7th. Darren Lobb not too far from closing in Michael Whiting. I think Travis Hunt's just gone to 4th. He sure has. Replay or two to look at. So this is going to be Jeff Thomas down the inside of Clark. Takes out Logsdale, I thought it was. Super missided. So got Gary Buckland. Sandman has a slide there. Okay. Thomas down the inside and gotten it all wrong. Cleaned out the car 3 cars up the road. It's got Mackay behind Chad Lewis here. Oh, big slide. Doesn't catch it. It's not enough steering lock to catch it for Scott Mackay.
Similar one to what we saw John Latham do a little bit earlier as well when he was trying to avoid any incident there. And now we're looking at Travis Hunt here on lap 51 on Michael Stewart. So this is the move for 4th place, and he sends it down the inside. Little bit of a kiss just to let him know I'm there, secondary one, but gets the move done there side by side and through into 4th place. Gutsy move, that one.
Yeah, super deep in there. Just a tiny bit of a hello. Mostly made it to the apex of the corner. Without pushing out too wide. And that's how Travis Hunt got up into 4th. Their battle's only a second ahead of Kenneth Latter and Wayne Walker, who are 2 super quick guys as well. So Stewart's going to have to do a bit of work to stay inside the top 5 here. Last lap was the lap with that battle in it. So I don't think the lap times are representative, but Latter and Walker were, of course, quicker.
Here we go on board with the zoom wall for Travis Hunt and Michael Stewart. With Latter and Walker behind them, so very much locked in. Look at that. Travis Hunt, after making that move, he knows it's not over yet. It's only half a second behind. Stewart is chasing him, but very much this race is not over yet. We've still got a good 9 laps here at the moment, sort of 8-9 laps, excuse me, to get through. And Michael Stewart with his VR, I'm sure could see everything and then some, trying to chase down Travis Hunt after that move was made.
54.7 last lap for all 4 of these drivers. Travis Hunt, Michael Stewart, Ken Latter and Wayne Walker. Turn 5 we go. Deceptively challenging corner. Big stop at turn 6. They get down to 2nd gear and a little curved in the traction zone off the exit. Kirby positioned defensively with Troy Stone Street behind 20th and 21st. Stone Street, one of the drivers who lost a lot of time being hit on the opening lap. Was that the case that he had his own slide and then got hit all the way around? I think that might have happened.
Yeah, so yeah, you're absolutely correct there, David. He had his own slide trying to dodge some of the other stuff going on up ahead of him and some slow cars, and unfortunately that spun him off the track and really sent him down the order.
Kirby a bit wide. Oh, but then the track goes the other way, just saves him in time. I think David Kirby almost took a big deep breath there. A bit of a sigh of relief type of thing going on. The crest of the hill, right-hander, tighter right-hander follows. Yeah, there we go.
We've had contact for the lead. Sorry, we've just had Jordan Ross and Scott Gamble make contact. Ross went down the inside at turn 3, I believe, and has made contact with Gamble and still gotten the move done. So Ross is into the lead there, but he made contact on the way through. So that'll be an interesting one as Gamble's into the back of Ross now.
A little bit more at turn 6, so the battle's on. Jordan Ross holds the advantage and holds the race lead right now ahead of Scott Gamble. It all eventually having to come to a head, and, well, you saw it.
Yeah, a replay would be excellent to view because I just caught it out of the corner of my eye and, well, look at this. Mr. Yeaman is all over it. So through turn 1 into turn 2 here, Gamble was in control. Down the inside, Ross goes. Gamble turns in. Oh, I mean, give me all the camera angles in the world. I'm going to leave that one to race control. That is neck and neck as far as moves go. But we knew Ross was going to have to make a move at some point, and he did it.
Sure got a little sumo wrestling through there, and there was just a little bit of a hello after it. Ross pointed cleanly to the apex, the inside of 3, ended up clambering over a little bit of the sausage curb. He was so far to the right-hand side of it. Paul Young still in third place, no man's land, ahead of this group. Travis Hunt, Michael Stewart, Ken Latter and Wayne Walker both getting closer to Michael Stewart. 7 laps to go, I think. for this group as they cross the line right now, and indeed it will be. Travis Hunt with a couple of car lengths of space to Michael Stewart. Michael Stewart with not much in his back pocket versus Ken Latter.
No, Stewart will just be hoping to hold on here. We have not got long left in this mammoth race. As now we look at Scott Mackay, he's got dirt flying out the back of his car, so it looks like he's had another off somewhere and has dropped more positions, unfortunately. Got a replay here.
Wait, he was just ahead of Andrew Rushworth. Breaking into the penultimate corner, he's just gotten it wrong once more.
Exact same incident as before. This time he saved the car, but unfortunately has lost a couple of positions as part of that. Not the end to this race that he would have been looking for, unfortunately.
Here comes Darren Lobb versus Michael Whiting for 8th. Lobb 9/10 of a second quicker last lap. Now sits just 4/10 behind.
And we did talk about this, that Lobb he'd have the eyes on, and in the back of that shot you did see Muggleton now, who is now 6.9 seconds behind. So Lobb is just eyes forward, focused on Michael Whiting here. Try and make up some of those positions he's probably lost out of that half spin he had earlier, and that strategy probably not working out the way he would have liked. So we know Lobb's got pace, but it's one thing to catch a driver, it's another thing to pass them. So we'll see what he can do here to try and make this pass work.
More drama at turn 6. Matty Mascord's ended up facing backwards. There was a bit of contact. Ooh, all action down towards turn 1. Travis Hunt fends off Michael Stewart. Ken Latter gets a bad exit. Wayne Walker looks down the inside for turn 1. They're both in super hot in the braking zone, just pulling it up before Michael Stewart's rear bumper. I think Walker's positioned to hold on to this one. They make just a tiny bit of door-to-door contact at 2. Inside of turn 3 for Wayne Walker, but then there's a little bit of contact on the exit, and Ken Latter rolls out of it. Wayne Walker will eventually get that 6th place.
Yeah, wow, that was some spirited racing. Very, very good racing from those guys. And you can see they're pushing these cars and the tyres to the absolute limit of what they can do after nearly 300 kilometres. And Walker still on this charge after he's had a couple of those unfortunate incidents earlier in the race. But now we're looking back at Whiting, and now back at Latham, who's they've both gone in too deep there. That's on Burridge, is it? Yes, on Burridge. So they've both gone in a bit deep there into turn 6. Looks like Latham might give this back to him. Yep, he'll give it back to him. So felt that he might have done Burridge a bit hard there. Latham will slot back in and continue to fight to make up even more positions in his charge today.
And here's David Kirby and Troy Stonestreet once again. So this hasn't changed in a hurry. So not long ago we saw Mascord backwards. This is how. Bit of a lock up there from Wayne Sanderson going down the inside.
You know, I got to say, in moments like this, so we just did hear that this was called a points penalty. Not something I've experienced in a lot of league racing. Here it is, popped up on the screen there. When a driver redresses like that, it's still, you've obviously still disadvantaged the driver ahead of you, as we're going to see here. Matty does get turned around there, but Wayne redresses it. But of course, Matty still loses position. So it's not a pit lane penalty or anything. The points penalty is a really unique way to do it, and I'm a fan of that. So well done there, getting that redressed and get back racing again. Good on race control for not making any more of that than what it needs to be after a redress from Sanderson as well.
So John Latham has managed to get by Chris Burridge into 12th place. They're just behind Matt Muggleton and Chad Lewis battling for the final spot on the podium. And now Burridge is back ahead of John Latham, just as we looked away. The
Hard to
one
keep
corner
up at
we
the
didn't
moment.
see of him.
Yeah, and now Stone Street right up close on Kirby. He's going to go down the inside here. He's going to try and get it done. Kirby's still got a bit of overlap, but Stone Street might have gotten this just done. Yes, he will cross the nose there and get that done after a number of laps trying to find his way past David Kirby. And now we're looking for the battle for the top 5. Walker is all over the back of Michael Stewart, so that... and has gotten past the ladder as well. So Walker looking to charge his way back into the top 5, and Stewart is all over the shop.
Yeah, white final corner. Wayne Walker was just picture perfect. Really solid run here. Halfway overlapped, pulled out over the little crest there. You brake just as they go over that. Really long braking zone into turn 1 and hopping past. And into the top 5 goes Wayne Walker.
Great recovery from where he was earlier in the race. You know, we obviously have seen some good things from Wayne, and
Gamble's dropping time quickly. Just lost a couple
is.
more tenths as I've looked at him. He's now 4 seconds behind the lead. And would he just go through the turn 6 braking zone and lost about 2 tenths to Jordan Ross there? I think there might be some fuel saving or something going on here from Gamble. I think I'm seeing him lose a couple of tenths of a second into every braking zone. I mean, we're looking at the comparison versus Paul Young, and Young's pulled 2 tenths on him in Sector 1. We're about to know for Sector 2. Oh, and Muggleton and Lewis have come together battling for the top 10. John Latham will go through into 10th. Every single lap of this 300-kilometre race, storylines and drama.
You couldn't have asked for a better 300-kilometre race for the viewers, couldn't you? Or for us up here in the comms box, so to speak. There has just been action everywhere. Each stint we have had some great things to focus on. And just to circle back to the point about Gamble and his fuel situation, you're absolutely right. He's bleeding time to Young, but he had the exact same pit stop in the second pit stop cycle as Ross, like almost to the thousandth of a second. So it's odd that he seems to be bleeding so much time at the moment.
Lewis braking zone at 1. Yeah, no real dramas there. It seems to be, perhaps it's more cornering, because that's Sector 2 where the most happened. Scott Gamble is now closer to Paul Young in 3rd than he is to Jordan Ross in the lead of the race. Something happening elsewhere, like the battle for that top 10. Completely sure what happened with Muggleton. We'll dissect it. So it's good old turn 6. Ooh, was there room down the inside there for Chad Lewis? Had he thought that Muggleton had gone wide? Had Muggleton gone wide?
Yeah, he committed to that one. Or that's an awkward one there. I reckon that'll be another race control special, that one. But yeah, awkward. Lewis was definitely down on the inside there. Muggleton did turn in a little bit, but again, without dissecting that, it's a usual word, David, dissecting that, it'll be a difficult one to pull apart, but we'll leave that to the experts in race control. So we got the battle for 17th here. So Steve Kennedy, Dean Flavel, and Christian Smart duking it out here with just a few laps to go in this 300-kilometre enduro.
Wasn't Darren Lobb up in 8th? Lost a bit of time 2 laps ago. I think he's dropped back behind Michael Whiting.
I think you're right there, David.
Perplexing race at times for a couple of our drivers inside of the top 10.
You need we need the multicam wall at this point. There's too much action to keep track of
I need
here
a
at the
Hino
Pentagon.
hub.
Yeah, quick, someone get Larko on the phone. So we're within a couple of laps here now to the end of the race. So Ross is our leader, Gamble and Young second and third. I don't even know where you start to unpack this, but Flavel now, Dino with down the inside goes Christian Smart. Oh, I'm not going to lie, I thought that was going to be too deep, but Smart got that done well. And Dino, David, you said it earlier, he has been practicing some yoga, some Zen practices, not even above 110 tonight. As Dean Logsdale has been black flagged now.
Yeah, he's been involved in all sorts today, so I think that's going to be the incident limit, which is 17x today, and this is a big and long race at 300 kilometers, and Logsdale's been involved in plenty. Part of it not his fault. I think he copped perhaps 4x off of Thomas earlier, and then some other sources, obviously. To start the final lap of the race, though, 295-ish kilometers completed and 5 more to go for Jordan Ross, whose lead is now out past 5 seconds to Scott Gamble, whose lead to Paul Young is underneath a second, and Young has been eating it up over the last couple of laps here as well. Other battles still to be decided: Travis Hunt versus Wayne Walker, Michael Whiting versus Darren Lobb, Christopher Burridge versus Chad Lewis. Everywhere that you look, something to play for on the final lap at the bend.
It's the story of this race, isn't it, David? That we haven't known where to look because there has been something going on anywhere we do look. So Lobb is right on the back of Whiting there. You've got Kennedy and Smarty, who are still within only half a second of each other. Now back to Whiting and Lobb, battling for just these last positions in the top 10, and Lobb on a bit of a recovery drive. Whiting having had a great night out, working his way through the pack, but it's still not over yet.
Lobb would wish to be a little bit closer into turn 6. First, Michael Whiting. We enter the middle sector of the lap, which told us that's where Paul Young's advantage over Scott Gamble was greatest. Just as we come here, Paul Young is super close. Gamble surely managing an issue of some kind here, because Paul Young is all over him. There are still overtaking opportunities left in the lap here.
This is going to be tight here. This is going to be very tight. He's going to want to try and have a little peek, put Gamble off a little bit, try and make him take the wrong line here. We've only got a couple of turns to go at the moment now. Still probably not close enough, but he's going to want to have a look.
Scott Gamble can't afford that thing to cough or splutter, but a little bit further up the road, Jordan Ross, the championship leader, is going to bank another win. It has not been an easy one here at the bend. 300Ks later, he's ahead. Joining him on the podium, Scott Gamble just ahead of Paul Young. Wayne Walker is up in 4th ahead of Travis Hunt. They're going to be next to come to the line.
So this race
behind him in 6th.
Still isn't done. Ladder 7th, Whiting 8th, so Lobb couldn't get Whiting in the end. Lobb will come home 9th. It looks like, in the background there, Latham will bring the car home in 10th. Andrew Rushworth will come home in 12th after some alternate strategies as well. Wow. Tonight's race has been... It's been an epic, hasn't it, David?
Muggleton's out of fuel here, is he? Is that... No, that's... Yeah, prior to the checkered flag, Muggleton is losing out. They're passing him, so David Kirby's gone by, Troy Stonestreet's gone by. I reckon Ray Smith, Luke Orman, Mark Poynton are a chance at getting him, because the timing line is up there.
Just make it. There we go, Matt Muggleton. It was a night of what could have been for Matt. Unfortunately, there were a few struggles as the night went on, but he did cross the finish line there, so he will be scored. And unfortunately, it's a few positions lower than what he probably should have been, provided the fuel lasted. Oh, someone's off in the background there. As
Jeff
we look
Thomas.
at Jeff Thomas.
Well, good news is he's already served a drive-through penalty for incident points, so then it's another 15 to the subsequent drive-through penalty. But poor Jeff Thomas is going to end up a lap down, one of the last cars to finish. He's heading for pit lane right at the end there. Gary Buckland, 29th. Okay. Let's look at some results from that one. And, I mean, to see the end of a RaceKraft V8 Vets race with Jordan Ross on top is not surprising unless you watched all 300Ks of that, in which case it is perhaps a little surprising that he's ended up ahead of Scott Gamble and Paul Young. Wayne Walker in fourth again, not much of a surprise, but he had to really, really work for that one. He ended up ahead of Travis Hunt, Michael Stewart, Ken Latta, Michael Whiting, Darren Lobb, and John Latham as the top 10. And then Christopher Burridge, Andrew Rushworth, John Gallen, Chad Lewis, Scott Mackay, Steve Kennedy, Christian Smart, Dean Flavel, Troy Stonestreet, and David Kirby, the top 20 there, Brock.
Yeah, so starting our 21st is Ray Smith, then 22nd, Matt Muggleton, who we did see run out of fuel there, 23rd, Luke Allman, 24th, Mark Poynton, 25th, Matty Mascord, who we saw in the wars a bit as well, 26th, Wayne Sanderson, 27th, Stacey Boyd, 28th, Stephen Clark, Gary Buckland in 29th, and then Matt Brunt rounds out the top 30. And here we go. Dean Logsdale, 31st, who again was in the wars tonight, 32nd. Scott McCune, Greg Sharp in 33rd. Jeff Thomas, 34th. Damien Cairns, 35th, but did disconnect a little bit earlier. And then we've got Ricky Hyde, 36th. Stephen Grumley, Darren Goosey, and Sean McNamara, I believe, were all disconnects, unfortunately, throughout the night due to various issues. And that rounds out our grid here.
Looks like Damien Cairns will be one of the last classified cars there. Got to do 75% of a 61 lap race. So that's 45-ish laps or so. I think Cairns is the right side of it, and Ricky Hyde isn't, as far as it goes, counting that up. John Ross and Scott Gamble get a good points haul, and the whole podium will come by to have a chat with us. Going to third place, Paul Young. He joins us. Congratulations on that podium, Paul.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, it's about time. Well, that's what my teammates say. About time I got back on the podium.
Unconventional-ish strategy, at least compared to Ross and Gamble.
It wasn't so much, I'll admit it, wasn't so much a strategy as a big mistake. I was actually watching Jordan when he came into the pits behind me, and I thought I'll leave with him. And so I had my finger poised on the stop fueling button, and when he dropped off the jacks, I hit mine, but a split second before that I'd actually stopped refueling. So it put me back on the jacks, and before I realised it, I'd put in another 20 litres, and the time in between. So that's why I came back in the traffic, and yeah, so that wasn't on purpose.
Yeah, middle stint then gave you a little bit of work, because at that end of that first stint, you were really, eating up Scott Gamble. You had a lot of pace on the light car by the seams of things.
Yeah, same in that last stint too. Like the middle stint was terrible because I hated it with 120, 130 litres on it. But the first stint, the car felt better the longer the stint went, and the same in the last one. So once I sort of cleared myself of Ken and Wayne and those guys, I sort of was able to just do clean laps, look after the front tyres, and it just got better and better. That was a bit harder to do in the middle stint. Yeah, I had to fend with Darren and Ken again, and it got a little bit messy. But then the last stint was clean, so I just thought I'd do the same, and couldn't quite catch him.
Making things a little too hard for yourself. The bend still feels like a very new track, though. I've now seen a couple of races here, and obviously you've adapted to it pretty well.
Yeah, I really like it. I didn't like it. The first race we did was for Scops, and that didn't go too well. But I still got the laps in, and we did a couple of officials as well during the week, and so I've done plenty of laps. And after 61, I've done enough. But it is a fun track.
Sufficient. And is it weird doing 40 k's an hour in that pit lane?
Yeah. I actually got a black flag when I was doing an official during the week, so I was super conservative going in. So yeah, I probably wasted a few seconds going in on the first pit stop. But yeah, it's dangerously slow, and it seems to take forever.
Well, congratulations on that podium and all the fighting all the way across to get there.
Thank you.
Paul Young, third place. Just ahead of him, Scott Gamble finished second, Brock.
Yeah, well, that one there, my front left, is 36%.
G'day, Scott. Welcome to the comms box, mate, and congratulations on second place tonight, mate. Look, walk us through how that race went for you, because obviously you were leading a good chunk of it, even with the likes of Paul Young and Jordan Ross coming at you at points. How did you manage these early parts?
Yeah, look, how you going, guys? Yeah, pretty sort of uneventful race, really. And yeah, I know there might have been a bit going on elsewhere, but for me, there wasn't much action. But I guess it was just managing tyres and the fuel. That was, like, I knew they were both coming at me, but, you know, I thought I'll just stick to where I'm at with me fuel numbers and how it felt with tyres. And that sort of worked. I mean, I got a couple of warnings in that middle stint about tyres, you know, but I still had a couple of laps to go to finish where I wanted to be. And so that was my plan, was just to stick to that type of plan. I didn't really want to race anyone. I was a bit disappointed on, I guess it was lap 54 when Jordan sort of put it up the inside, which, you know, he had the pace and he was going to pass me at some stage anyway. And then just sort of parked it there, and I turned across to the racing line, you know, and there's contact. And after that, the car was dead. It was an absolute potato. You know, I was dropping over a second a lap, so I don't know what was going on.
So interesting you bring that up, Scott, because obviously we saw that up here in the box, and I wanted to ask you, is that just, from your point of view, was that just, it's a move for the lead, it's play on, we just keep racing?
I mean, yeah, they're always going to call probably play on. I just sort of thought it could have been done somewhere else. You know, like, he was going to get through. Like, he had more pace, and I guess I was frustrated because it gave me an incident points when I didn't have any. You know, and I was just like, oh, you didn't have to do it there. So it just seems to be that way sometimes when you're in the front. People want it, and, you know, I mean, others will look at it differently to my perspective and say, oh, great move, you know, and, oh, you turned across and whatever, good on them, good luck to them. But that's not how I see it.
No, more than fair enough, Scott. And you mentioned that the car felt like a potato. Now, we obviously saw that there was that drop-off in pace. We speculated, was it fuel saving or something? Was it just that contact, you reckon, caused some sort of damage, and that's why you were limping it a bit to the end?
Yeah, it just had nothing. It was just, I was talking to Jordan about it, and he said he's had it before as well, where sort of insignificant contact, you know, which you think that is insignificant, like, and it just turns into a big parachute, and that was his words, and that's exactly what it was like. It just had nothing. It had no speed. It was gone, and you're just like, why? Like, that wasn't even that bad, but it was enough to, whatever's happened to that car, the damage on it, you know, that's in the side, it's just probably a little dent or something, was enough to, drop it a second a lap, which is quite a lot, really, you know.
Well, absolutely. And did you find you were watching the mirror a bit for Paul Young, or were you kind of like, okay, I've got this time in hand to get myself to the end of the race?
Yeah, I was looking at it, and then I thought, oh, yeah, I've got enough time, you know, if he's catching me a second a lap. And then when we got to 2 laps, it was like 1.98. And I went, oh, holy shit, this is coming, this is coming down really quick. And yeah, so he was right there at the end, and, you know, good on him. He's had a good run, and it's good for him to get on the podium too. So, you know, big congratulations to Paul and, you know, Jordan, for both of them around. I mean, Jordan's Pro Series driver. You've got to expect it. He's young. He wants it, and he's driving extremely well. So, and he's been dominant. So, well deserved to him.
No, good on you, Scott. We congratulate you on another great run here tonight in V8 Vets. Before we let you go, mate, is anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, look, to ERT, thank you very much. Big shout out to Logitech G. They've been absolutely fantastic, and Dan, the representative over there, he's been awesome. He's a wealth of support, and he's a great person to chat with. I've already mentioned Jordan and Paul. That was a great race by them, and there was a few other good races in there as well. By the looks of it, I can't wait to go back and have a look at it, and check out your broadcast that you guys do an exceptional job of, as always. And to the rest of the drivers, thank you. Another round done. We've only got a couple more to go, and two new tracks for us in a row. It's a big ask, but you've got to go learn them, I guess, and hopefully we have a good showing next week. So thanks, guys.
Beauty, Scott. Thanks, mate, and good luck for the last couple of rounds of the championship. We'll see you there.
See you guys.
And David, finally, Jordan Ross.
Yeah, that's right. We were just saying, Jordan, if we looked at, the results sheet of any random race of the last 2 seasons of RaceKraft V8 Vets, your name up top wouldn't be a surprise, but that in everything we saw across today, perhaps it is a surprise that it fell your way for victory.
Yeah, that was a good race. That was a real fun race. It's really competitive, and a lot of these guys are doing a really good job, and they're faster than me in quali and stuff like that, and you really got to be on the money to do a good lap in qual and stuff like that. So congrats to all of them. It's heaps of fun at the moment. Yeah, really enjoying it.
300k race with that uncapped fuel tank. I feel like we saw a lot more variation from this car than we often have in some of the other races with a 70% fuel cap or whatever, in that we'd go stint to stint, start of the stint, you might be quick. End of the stints, Paul Young was really quick. We saw way more sort of heavy car, light car difference, who's quick one circumstance versus the other.
I didn't put much thought into it, really. My thought going in was see how the tyres last in the first stint, like just run out the fuel load and see where we're at with tyres, and then that'll determine what I do with the remainder of the race. And I think about 4 laps prior to the first pit stop, I had a tyre warning, and I was actually quite slow at the end of the first stint compared to Wayne Walker. He was in front of me, he was pulling a gap on me. So then I figured out that I've probably got to protect the tyre a little bit, which I did in the first 5 laps of the next 2 stints, and it paid dividends, because as the stint went on, I had much better tyres than I did in the first stint, and was able to sort of close the gap down and get the lead.
You think rolling starts are going to catch on in supercars racing?
I think it was cool for a change. I don't know if it was a mistake or whatever, but whatever, it's all good. It's no drama. I thought it was fun for something different, so maybe we can do a couple more of them through the season. I don't know.
Some tracks like Daytona International Speedway, for example, where you really should do a rolling start because the standing start on the banking isn't quite right. That's the only other example I could perhaps think of. Anything interesting happen around a racetrack like this for 300Ks, because you've got not a whole lot to look at other than just trying to pick all of your apexes and braking markers?
Oh no, I enjoy driving the track. It's technical. It took me a little bit of time. It probably took me that whole first stint to figure out how to drive the track. In the second stint, I was sort of able to figure out how to drive it. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge, and because all the corners lead on to the next, and you got to get the line right. There was I don't know what corner it is, but after the triple right-hander, you've got the left right. That right was really weird to get the power on, so I couldn't figure that corner out for the whole race until right at the end. But no, it's not boring. It's fun because it's competitive, and the race was fun because it was, you had to try and race some guys for the win, and there was plenty going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So from fourth on the grid to the win here at the Bend, extending your championship lead with just a couple of rounds to go. How are you feeling about all of that?
Yeah, it's good. Like I say every week, I'm just enjoying it. And yeah, I think all these guys are really pushing me and beating me as well. So I'm just enjoying it, taking it week by week, and yeah, we'll see how the championship pans out at the end.
Section A, you were part of a battling group with Darren Lobb and Wayne Walker and Ken Latter, and I think you had sort of 5 of you, all of you race winners in this championship. There are a couple of them there, like Wayne Walker and even Paul Young today, that seem to have a level that perhaps makes you have to sweat a little bit more.
Yeah, and I've been saying this to everyone. It's like, it's not just turn up and think you're going to win. Like, you actually have to do a good job. And like, these guys are seriously fast. And yeah, especially Scott and Paul and Wayne. Wayne's really fast at the moment. Darren Lobb. They're all fast guys. And Kenny was really quick today. And Michael Stewart also has really taken a step forward in the last, probably since middle of the season. He's really fast. He's up there. I think in the first stint, he actually, I was surprised. I looked at my relative with a couple of laps to go in the first stint, and he was only 1 second behind me, or 1.4 or whatever. So he'd actually closed in on me, and he's doing a really good job as well. So no, I'm just enjoying it. It's all good.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you in a week's time, Jordan, and we can't wait.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
So Jordan Ross takes the race win, and there's one more prize that still has to go out, Brock.
I believe that would be the Chubby Buns Driver of the Day.
Yes, indeed.
Who do we go for?
Well, from the broadcast director, our suggestions are Paul Young or Travis Hunt. Gee, I don't know.
I'm keen to give. I reckon. Oh, it really is a bit of a toss-up between Travis and Paul. I reckon, let's go Travis with the Zoom wall, and we love sort of some of his antics and whatnot. Let's give Travis it if you agree.
Yep, and from 14th on the grid to a top 5 as well. He was pretty tidy across all of it as well, and I don't remember us seeing him making a whole lot of unbelievable overtakes, but while others had mistakes and pit stop dramas, I think he executed tidily enough. So Travis Hunt is Chubby Buns Burgers Driver of the Day from the Bend.
Well done. And you know what? It was a great drive by Travis. Wayne Walker pipped him at the end there for P4, but top 5, up 9. And I correct me if I'm wrong, one of his best results of the season as well. So well-deserving Chubby Buns Driver of the Day.
Well, it's been an incredibly exciting The Bend 300 for RaceKraft V8 Vets, and this season has just 2 rounds left to go. 1 week's time at Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli, and then the round 10 finale at Okayama. 200 and 250 kilometers to come. You'll see it all here on SimSpeed TV. Our pleasure to be bringing you the top split of RaceKraft V8 Vets, which is supported by Logitech G, Nova Sim Sports, Parramatta Isuzu Ute, Player One Sim Gear, LGC Images, Chubby Buns Burgers, and SudSpeed. We, being myself, David Haynes, Brock Cadday, and Daniel Yeaman, will see you for more RaceKraft V8 Vets in a week's time at Misano.